All right, we're going to get started in about 4 minutes. 4 minutes, we're going to be getting started.
We'll do nothing from up here. Where's Carson and Tina?
All right. Welcome back, everybody. Did y'all have a good lunch? Yeah. All right. Did anything exciting happen over lunch for you? Okay. All right, so a wardrobe mishaps, okay? That's exciting. You know what? One of the things that was exciting is I talked to Marianne, and Marianne come up and she had some fun things happening. When we have real-time success, that is something that I love to talk about. So Marianne's gonna, y'all give it up for Marianne. She's gonna come up here and give us a little quick one. All right, what happened?
Thank you. I did what you all were doing because I love being like in the trenches and doing things. So when Steven said, check in with the top 3 people that come to your mind and reach out to them, I did. And so I found a cash partner over lunch, which is awesome, right? I also made a couple of posts on Facebook, and I learned something new. Do you want to learn what I learned new? If you put a $ or numbers in your Facebook post, Facebook will bury it. So if you're sharing your successes, don't share in $ or digits. Spell it out, okay, so you don't get pushed down. I know. So I made 2 posts just because of an experiment, and they're only about an hour old, and I have 7 comments between them, and 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 likes. So those are all potential people to work with. So it works. Get it rolling.
And all right. I'm feeling better now. All right. One of the things you may or may not have understood what she said, but usually a cash partner, that translates into that she's found somebody that has $30,000 to $40,000 that want to do business with her and partner with her. So that's not a small thing. That's a big thing. So can we really give it up for cash partners and finding them? Yeah. All right, was there anybody else that had some exciting things that occurred over lunch for them? Felicia, give us a word.
I actually spoke. Hello. I actually spoke to someone just because I felt like going to talk to them, and found out they were a resource for me, that they had experience and had done work in an area that is going to save me a lot of time and energy.
Awesome. Give it up for Felicia. Now, one of the things that I learned that Tony Robbins teaches is he says you don't need more resources. You need to learn to be more resourceful. And so oftentimes we think that we need to have more resources come into our world. And what I have personally found is that if you are unsuccessful while you're broke, if I put a lot of money behind it, then it's just going to be unsuccessful with a lot of zeros behind it. And so it's our resourcefulness is what takes us to the place that we want to be. And now you have tapped into, and you've got a document in front of you that Chris and Stephen are going to be teaching us. And if you will tap into this information and focus your attention, can we come into agreement right here that we're going to actually get really focused on our attention? Okay? Because if we're in that kind of agreement, then now what they're teaching is going to be a big thing for us. Chris does not need to be here teaching this stuff. Okay? I mean, for real. And he said the other day, I love it when I get to correct some of my own mentors. Chris says, well, I have to. And I said, Chris, remember that you don't have to. Remember the law of choice? You choose into this. And he said, yeah, I choose into it. So he has chosen to bless the people when he could really be sitting on a beach somewhere, and we have done that on a few occasions, and I'm not opposed to that, and I like to sit on beaches, and I've even tested this, and I've tried to test it, and Chris says, yeah, you'll get bored with beaches. I haven't got there yet, but I'm working on it. And so so could you welcome to the stage my mentors, Chris Crone and Stephen Michael Miller. Y'all give it up for them.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. All right. So I'm going to actually be in Mexico next week on the beach. I'm not opposed to beaches, but this is where I'm at when I'm not on the beach. So I want to tie in what Marianne just did for us, and I want to tie that into what is going on here, because this is what just got covered. How many of you now believe that you could actually use social media, Facebook, for example, as a medium for gathering and finding people that are interested in your interests so that you could look at doing business with them? Who's got that? Say aye. All right. Now, that's one of the things. But how many of you have a cell phone with several hundred names and phone numbers in it? Say aye.
Aye.
Okay, and then how many of you have the ability to use 2 ears and 1 mouth to meet people, network, so that you can grow your influence? Say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we used to live in a world 5 years ago where Stephen and I would put on trainings trying to cause people to believe that they could expand their influence. And we were like, no, I couldn't even make a list of 200 people I know if my life came. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah, all the time.
Oh, my hours that we would spend on these trainings. And we live in a world today where, like, no one got a problem with that anywhere. I was like, no, I can meet more people. The world is so tiny right now. There's only 7.5 billion of us. So how many of you believe that if you have an absolute certainty in your focus of what you're creating, that you can attract and find the people that are out there? Okay, excellent. Question is, what do you do when you find them, and like, what do you say? Are any of you like, I'm so afraid I'm going to screw this thing up? Is anyone afraid that it's like, why haven't you talked to them? Because I'm going to mess it up. How many of you, honestly, how many of you ever done that? Okay. There is a solution for that. It's called a business plan. It's called a what?
A business plan.
I'm going to tell you right now, there's a lot of people that get intimidated by this big word, thinking, now, I need to go to college and have an MBA to write one of those, right? Friends, do you know where this comes from? It is a free resource from the internet, gift of SBA, government-sponsored. Have a business plan, present it to people so that you can attract the right people and have some common sense concept of what it is you're doing. So please don't allow yourself to get overwhelmed with this 2-word document. And at some point in life, we got to grow up and do some of the things that scare us. If we didn't do that, then we would never take the necessary risks to get where we want to go. And how many of you are a little intimidated by a 20-page document called a business plan? Be honest. It's okay. Admit it. Be okay with it. Face it. We're here in the next 2 hours, Stephen and I, to help you get over it. Oh, and by the way, is there anyone here that actually thinks that real estate might be their business that they want to do? For those of you that have a hand up, this is not a fictitious document as by way of example. This is actually a real business plan. And it's something that we're giving you to use. This is one of the businesses that Stephen and I do. How many of you think that you'd want to get some ongoing mentoring with Stephen and I on over the next decade, how to put many partnerships together and get our help in doing it? Good. What if we used our resources to actually help speak to your people while you were on your learning curve so that you didn't have to burn bridges? Okay, well, surprise, surprise. I mean, today really is about partnering. This is a generic tool. This is an example. But as we go through it, I just want you to also know this is real, and this is a real tool that real people, Vaughn, real people are using, right? Amen. All right.
So I had a lot of hands that got raised when you said you were intimidated by a business plan. How many of you are also impressed when you see a business plan and all the information that's in there? Yeah, absolutely. That is what this is for. Yeah, your oracle gets, you're, all that information, this is great. So we're going to be going through this. We're going to go step by step through this business plan. And again, realize that although this is geared towards real estate, the concepts and the principles that are in here that we're going to be touching on can be applied to any business. When you're going out there looking to get a money partner or a skills partner or whatever that might look like, and you're able to put a business plan in front of them and say, hey, this isn't just some, harebrained scheme. This isn't some out there idea. I've put some thought into this. I understand what it's going to take, and these are the possible returns of what I'm looking for. People begin to perk up, and they look at you and listen to you differently.
Now, I just want to share an example of this. A couple months ago, I had a friend come to me and said, Chris, I have this investment. I'm in the school education system, and I'm going to redo the education system, and the school allocates grant money, and I can get that money and basically help our children have a better tomorrow. I've been a content writer for the school district for the last 15 years, and I'm ready to bump it up to a whole new level by not working in the system, but outside, being a company that sells enhanced goods to school systems to give our children better education. He says the school system is changing, and there's new requirements that they have to up their game, and I want to build a company that can do that. He said, would you be interested? And I said, sure, I would, yeah. So I said, why don't you send me a one-page proposal? A week goes by. There's no one-page proposal. I see him at the gym again. I said, Matt, where's the one-page proposal? He's like, oh yeah, I'm getting to that. Why had he not gotten to it, if you had to guess?
He didn't know how.
He didn't know how. So eventually he sends me the one page, and I look at it, and I say, wow, Matt, it's very apparent that you have a lot of passion, but you have very low skill set in producing this document, because right now I couldn't invest in you because of how incompetent the one page looks. And then he said, would you help me? And I said, absolutely. So he's currently now at a 30-page document that covers the who, what, when, where, how, and everything. And while it has been an exercise for him in putting it together, here's the best part about it. First of all, I would totally invest in his business. I helped him put the plan together, but he needed help articulating. I think that the number one reason why our dreams go to our grave is because we never get comfortable articulating. And like Stephen just said, it's impressive when you have this. Imagine that you met someone on Facebook like Marianne just did during lunch, and they're like, I'm interested. What's the next thing you do? If you're not really sure what to say, you say, great, what's your email address? Let me shoot you a little something, and let's meet and talk about it after. Who's doing the talking on the first impression? Marianne or the paper? Which do you think is going to do a better job? A well thought out published paper. Sorry, Marianne.
Marianne, of course, Marianne.
But how many of you think that if this was the first impression, that and that the meeting came after, that the meeting would then be about answering questions as opposed to doing a pitch? Friends, you're going to have to pitch something that you believe in hundreds of times often before you get good enough at it for people to feel comfortable, but you can cut that learning curve down ridiculously when you can articulate it in a document like this. So first thing right now is we're just going to change the belief system. Everyone just take your finger, put it up in the air, put it right here on your chest, say, I love business plans.
I love business plans.
I'm really good at making business plans.
I'm really good at making business plans.
I express myself very well through business plans.
I express myself really well through business plans.
And people receive my message well through my business plans.
And people receive my message well through business plans.
Friends, if it starts with finding and step 2 is sharing, this is the share. This is what I did with my business partners. I could articulate everything in here, but I recognize that that might be more of a Chris Crone skill set. And so instead, if you can articulate it here, then you can articulate it here.
So before we go into this, I want to do something here that I hadn't planned on doing, but I'd love to get a volunteer, someone who's got a business in their mind, someone who's got a business that they've been thinking about for a little while, they get business in their mind. I want to give you 2 minutes. I want to give you 2 minutes to come up here to the front of the room and share your business idea? I just want to demonstrate a
Carson,
little
let's
bit
get a
here. Let's get brave. Come on. We've got some people. Okay. Felicia, come on and stand on up.
Guys, give it up for
Let's
Felicia.
get up for Felicia. And we're gonna time you. And what I want is in 2 minutes, you're going after a potential investor, a potential partner, whatever that looks like. It doesn't have to be an investor, but you're going after some potential partners right now. And so what I want you to do is I want you to present your idea in 2 minutes as best as you can. And then are you open to do this and then get some feedback from the room of what you thought about that pitch and presentation? And we're just going to do a little experiment here.
2 minutes begins right now.
I have a business plan where I partner with people who have money, people who have time, people who have energy, and youth. I want to put together homeowners and tenants in one team package where the tenants, they are the ones who actually hold your property in their hands. They can kick holes through the wall, or they can love it, and they can build it. And I want to create partnerships with those people so that they actually grow the property with you, enhance it, learn building skills, make this place a showcase, and then split the profits with them. I've got lending partners. I've got people who are insurance experts, people who find terrific properties with equity built in right before you even buy it. And so I'm asking, where do you see yourself in this food chain? Do you know people who are renters who have a dream and a burn in their heart and they want to own and have a piece of the American dream? Maybe you've got money stuck in an IRA and it's, you're worried. Maybe you're going to spend all your money before your life runs out. I have a family and their history burns in my soul. Part of my family were killed in a peasant uprising because they owned land. Part of my family were so dirt poor that they came to this country in desperation. And that's my big why. There's peace. We can work together. We can put together all the pieces. That's my burn. And I'm so grateful that I found my place on this earth to make it happen. Will you work with me?
Give it up for Felicia.
Okay, thank you so much. Now, she took about 1 minute and 45 seconds. You had 15 seconds left. That was good, though. There we go. We just went off. Stay up here for just a second. I'd love to hear from you what you thought. Did you understand the pitch? Did you understand what was involved? Were you interested? Were you not interested? And this is, obviously, you were put on the spot. And thank you so much for being brave and getting up here and doing this. You had no idea that was going to happen. But yeah.
And let's maybe even start with, what did she do well that was surprising? She didn't say
So she was eloquent in her speech, right? Very good. Okay, what else? What did she do well?
She engaged her audience. She'd walk up to people. She'd make eye contact.
Okay, engaging, walked up, made eye contact. Passion was there,
How
absolutely.
many of you could feel her passion, by the way? Yeah. By the way, if you're going to be in a partnership with someone to make something happen, how important is passion, at least in one of the two partners? She's a fireball you want to partner with because she's got the passion, right? What else?
Okay, ask some questions to get them to think. Good. Told her story.
Yeah, how many of you felt an emotional connection, by the way? Could you feel that? Also really important.
Good.
I like that she listed, she wanted this type of person, this type of person, this type of person, this type of person, and you.
Good. So she gave you options of how you could come and work with her. Okay.
Now, where might you still be then a little bit nebulous or unsure?
I'm gonna pass this just for our people online, just in case.
I was a little unclear who the characters in this story were. Like, her main idea, exactly who she was looking for and what individual role they play to come together and create what. What specifically were they creating and what were their roles.
Okay. So not exactly sure, maybe a little nebulous on exactly what is being created back here.
I think I was a little unclear on when she said, I want the tenants to become homeowners and things like that, of maybe why, how that would benefit, everybody, or how, why that was, a great plan. Was it just, a dream that she had, or like how is that going to be possible, and how would it benefit us in partnering with her?
Okay. Okay, good. Anything else? Right here.
In the beginning, when you started stating, I need this, and then you said young. I'm not young, I'm old. And right there, I kind of tuned out just a little bit because I thought to myself, it's not valid for me. I guess she doesn't want me, I'm old.
Good. This is all very good feedback.
And by the way, there are times when do you want to discriminate your audience to find the right people? That's a qualification process. If you're doing it intentionally to help drive to find the right people, it's a good thing. Do we sometimes do it on accident and disqualify people accidentally?
Yeah.
That can happen too.
I was a little unclear about how you're going to go about doing it. I feel like as an investor, you kind of want to know how are you going to go about turning these tenants into homeowners? How are you going to use the different people you listed you wanted to work with in this? How are you going to use each of them, and how are you going to apply their skills?
By the way, I hope that you're writing some of these things down, some of these questions, because these are questions that people will typically have. Any other input before we kind of move on to the next part here? No, thank you so much. Let's give Felicia another big round of applause. So real quick, we're talking about getting partners, and oftentimes an elevator pitch, this is what I'm going to call that. You've got 2 minutes, and your first impression is sometimes going to be your only impression. In sales, and we're talking about the sharing aspect of this, right? We found people, now we're going to share with them. In that share, there's something that's called a curiosity bubble. You ever heard of the curiosity bubble? What's a curiosity bubble? What does that mean? It's what it really is it's not giving them every bit of information up front so that they continue to want some more. And the problem with when you've got 2 minutes, you know you only have 2 minutes, it's really easy to just have verbal vomit, as they call it at times, where you just let it all out there, give everyone every bit of information you possibly can, and sometimes it can be confusing. One good thing about what we're doing here with the business plan is you can say, hey, I've got a great idea. I'm looking for some amazing people that I want to work with. And they say, well, what is it? Well, here, read this. It makes that conversation super simple.
Yeah, and the other thing that I wanted to point out that I noticed here with Felicia is that can we all agree that as amazing as her presentation was for being put on the spot for 2 minutes, that there were some plot holes? And so what those plot holes do is that allows people to arrive at a judgment and allows them to walk away and say no when they might have said yes. And instead of putting you through an elaborate training course on how to present and make that the skill set, I don't believe that is necessary for you to launch your business. What takes the place of that is a well thought out business plan. Now, and just to make the point on Stephen's curiosity bubble, if I had just said, I actually just found, this is probably one of the best deals I've actually ever seen in my life, and I'm scared because I don't even know who to bring it to because it is such a good deal. Is there anyone out there that's looking at placing some money in the game of real estate and wants to get access and see what that deal looks like? Okay, let me ask you, does that create curiosity? Yes. How did I do that? How did I do that?
You told us absolutely nothing about it.
I said nothing. But here's what you're doing here. It's exactly what Marianne just did, is when you're going out and you're meeting these people, and now you have a base of people that you can go to, it's time to plant some curiosity and say, hey, I've just run across a very special deal in real estate. A deal like this definitely doesn't come around very, very often, and I'm looking for a serious person that's interested in partnering. I got all the details. I just want to know who to send them to. Does that create curiosity? It does. And then to ensure that there's not a plot hole, what we're going to do is we're actually going to present some information this way that will always be followed up by a what?
A conversation.
A conversation. What do I want to have first? The lengthy conversation before they see the document or after?
After.
After, because this did a great job articulating everything.
So think about that. If you would have received Felicia's business plan first and then heard her get up here and speak with passion about what she wanted, how could that have changed that scenario a little bit? I mean, it would have been way more powerful on the second time around. Absolutely. Oracle Mind would have been satisfied. You would have been in a position where you would know all the details. And then when she got up there with passion, it's like, oh, yeah, I definitely want to be a part of this.
Yeah. So, friends, this is what we're going to do right now. We've handed this out. If you're online, we have sent this. You have this in your inbox. You've got this as a part of your program. And I want you to notice some things right off the bat. It's very important that everyone here has a digital copy of this, especially if you raise your hand saying, Chris, I want to actually invest in real estate. How many of if we could actually give you a team that would find all the deals for you, our personal team, and would facilitate that part and would provide our experts to help you have your conversations with your prospects, how many of you think that would be really amazing? Okay, this document, it has these highlighted areas, like in yellow it says, Real Estate Company LLC. Do you know what you put there in that spot?
Your company.
You put your company. Now, do you need a fancy name and a fancy logo? No, later we're going to share with you how you just set up a real simple LLC. It can just be, you know, my first name is K, my last name is K, my father-in-law's initials are
Is
M
not
and
K.
Right. So if you look at all of our LLCs, it's K ampersand K real estate or K ampersand K investments, K and K homes. Guys, for this kind of business, that's not important. Some of you, if you want to put on a donut shop on the corner, could the logo be more important then? Something that people are going to walk by and look at? Sure. But basically, you put your company name right here, you put your name right down here, you're the owner of this company, and we're now going to walk you through what this specific business plan looks like when people want our services in doing real estate, and the same pattern you follow when you're just getting your health business out the door or whatever business it is that you're believing in.
Okay, so this very first section here, which is executive summary, this is the hook. Okay, you're giving this to somebody, and although they have a lot of time, most people have a limited attention span. And so here in the hook, everyone's like, yep, me. I'm only on the video for 2 minutes on YouTube before I leave. All right, but so you wanna hook them right off the bat and help them understand who you are and what you're doing here.
Okay, so this is called the executive summary, and if I had 2 minutes, and if Felicia had her 2 minutes written out, she could even be over the phone and just read this to somebody and look at what this one looks like, for example. I help people successfully invest in real estate in the best markets around the country, securing superior ROIs for my partners. I'm actively seeking my next partner to build a successful portfolio with over the next 5 to 10 years. Pause. I'm 2 sentences in. Does the person know what I'm looking for? Yes. What am I looking for? I'm looking for a partner. My goal in building a real estate portfolio is to create equity, cash flow, and growth over time to meet real retirement income goal needs. Am I speaking to what my potential partner might be looking for?
Yep.
2 homes acquired during the first year can turn into several paid-off homes over a 10-year period of time with this particular system. Does that again appeal to the person looking for retirement? I leverage a proven short-term buy and hold strategy comprised of single-family homes purchased below the median for a given area in the nation's hottest markets. Pause. Am I putting my Oracle hat on now? Am I giving them meat and potatoes and not fluff? Now we're getting really specific. That gives me a competitive advantage in tripling ROIs most investors are used to. Pause. If you work with me, then I can potentially what? I can triple ROIs you might get in other places. My real estate power team is tied into Chris Crone and Stephen Miller's investing network. Together we control an extraordinary real estate team with an impressive track record of hundreds of millions of dollars in transacted real estate with deals that typically produce 12 to 20% annualized returns. Together we find, fix up, manage, rent up, and sell these homes, which creates profits for us to split above and beyond any initial investment. Are we getting more specific? If someone's interested in real estate, is this information they want to know? Okay, and then my partner and I build our portfolio inside a 50-50 partnership that we set up together. My team and I do all the work and management. The individuals or entity I partner up with puts up the capital and credit, and we split the profits. How much clarity is there right now? The following document is designed to explain the strategy, opportunity, and the deals that I'm doing. So far, are you going to send this to some people that are going to be like, you wanted me to read 19 pages? Because I'm not going to do that. But if they just read the first page, the executive summary means what? They're getting all of the quintessential. Some people are going to stop right here. I'm going to be honest. A warrior's going to stop, and they're going to say, when can we meet?
I'm in.
What's an oracle going to do?
Read the whole
thing. They're going to read the entire
4 times.
thing.
That's right.
What's a healer going to do? Right now we haven't spoken very much to the healer because the healer says, why? Who are we serving and who are we benefiting? They've got to get a little deeper into the document. Okay.
Do I feel good about this?
And the visionary's already out because I didn't say party. So, guys, you can't. So
maybe we should change that, guys. I party in real estate by providing fit. No.
All right. Now,
the visionary is in because you said you're going to do all the work.
That's
true.
That's true. That's true.
Missionaries and
That's
we're
true.
doing all the work. All right.
Let's move on here. The financial partner. So we're going straight into their contribution. What do we expect from that financial partner? Okay. The credit and capital partner provides generally $30,000 to $45,000 per property, which provides a 20% down payment, required closing costs, and a reserve fund for maintenance and repairs. What does that very first paragraph tell the partner? What's expected of them, and that we're thinking ahead. We're talking about reserve funds already here. We're talking about proper planning, because in any business that anyone wants to be a part of, they need to know that there's income, but there's also expenses, and we're accounting for that.
Now, by the way, if you have a different business that you're putting in here, you're going to replace literally every paragraph with its essential equivalent. So, for example, this is the person saying, looks like you need money, why? If you're going to put your money into something, how many times do people want to know exactly how that breakdown is? And friends, they want it to be satisfactory. So we're starting off with, you're going to need some money. And then without going in and reading all of it, it says things like, we'll be doing refinances and 1031 exchanges. When the property is sold, we can split the profits. We can reinvest the profits. Often my partners use 401ks, IRAs, annuities, or other equity to get a superior return on their investments. And so what we're doing right out of the gate is saying, all right, I want to make sure that if we're going to do a deal together that you know exactly what you're getting. I have experience in not always doing this. And I'm telling you, if I leave ambiguity with someone that I'm partnered with in any way, shape, or form, it often doesn't turn out as well as it could have. So out the gate, we're starting off with the pattern of what's my role and what's your role, so that if you keep reading and we get serious about this, then it's all said. Now, by the way, there's another reason for a business plan to be really positive. People get weird on money. You have not been pitching dozens or hundreds of business plans your entire life. If you had, you'd be able to say with great energy, I need $150,000. But when you've never done it before, it's like, okay, I'm just building up my courage for the next moment here. Whoo, give me a second. Okay, well, one of the things that I kind of maybe possibly need from you is $150,000. Is it hot in here? Okay, and friends, whether you sound that way or energetically feel that way, they feel it. Let the document do the heavy lifting when you're brand new and learning. There is a learning curve. This is just your shortcut learning curve tool, okay?
Okay, then the next section we get into our real estate advantages.
Now pause. So I just got to say, why are we hitting advantages again?
We just talked about their financial contribution.
Yeah,
And so we want to help them know it's worth it, right?
So what are you trading it for? If you're going to put money in, they have to know what? Yeah, so the executive summary is like the bird's eye view, 50,000 feet in the air. Every business plan needs to have that. Then next we're saying, what are you going to do? What are you going to give? And then what are you going to... Okay, I want you to take your pen and write this in on the paper as we're summarizing this and putting it in layman's terms. That second section is what do I give? The next section is called what do I get? And that's what the focus is going to be there.
Absolutely. So just go through a couple of these real quick. You can see the different advantages that we point out. You can protect your assets. So protection is a big one. Actually, at the very top, we said we help our partners create, manage, protect, and grow their wealth. And then we outline how we do that. Manage your money with potential tax-free growth, know when to buy, sell, transition. This is what our team does for you. Create reliable income for your retirement, and so on and so forth.
Now, by the way, this advantage section, this is a great place for you to speak from. The beautiful thing I have in this document is it creates shortcuts everywhere. For example, I'm doing a Facebook post today to a group of people that I've established to create connection and relationship with that likely could be good partners. I wonder what I could post today that would create some intrigue for looking into a potential partnership on some of the deals that I'm doing right now. Is there anyone looking to create some reliable income for your retirement? Is there anyone that's wanting to know how to buy and sell transactions in other markets, in the nation's hottest markets? Okay, those are things that intrigue people and they create curiosity. They create what?
Curiosity.
Okay, so now what we're doing is we're letting them know these are the things that we do, these are our claims, and the rest of the document is an explanation of what? Of how we actually do it, okay?
All right, longevity risk and asset spend down risk. What is that?
Gotta address their fears, right?
Yeah. Is this going to last long term? We're talking, in the very beginning, we talked about a 5 to 10 year relationship. Is there risk sometimes for things like that, and how do I avoid some of that risk? Absolutely, we talk about it.
And by the way, who are my people pleaser sugarcoaters in the room? Put your hand up, let's own it. Okay, if you're a people pleaser sugarcoater, then what your tendency is going to do is you're going to want to emphasize the best parts, and then you're going to de-emphasize the fear-based or the scary parts. You need in business to do not the opposite. You need to be fair. So it's really important, by the way, does business hold risk? Yes. Tremendous risk. And that risk varies, but by the way, if you don't address it, what is then a sophisticated partner going to be thinking? If this is your official representation of you and you're not willing to acknowledge the risk, then sorry, we don't need that follow-up meeting. So it's important to address that head on and talk about it, because that's how you get real with people. And people with money, I promise you, one of the ways that people get money is by working hard and being smart. So how they're going to keep that money and grow that money is by more working hard but being even smarter. And so you get to address all of those risks. If you look at your business, and I want you to write this in the side margin, that whatever your business is, you need to know what all the risks are. You should probably survey other people to get what they think the risks are. Get out of your own myopic perception. See what everyone could perceive all the risks at. And this document should do what to all the risks?
Address all of them.
It should address all of the risks entirely, and that creates confidence, because then the person says, oh, you didn't just dream this up last night. You've been putting some thought into this, and it's like you're reading my mind. Or you're even bringing up concerns that I wasn't thinking of, but wow, that even tells me that there's more consciousness happening here than I was putting into this, and I respect that.
All right, let's turn the page. I want to go over to proven track record. And I want to talk about this specifically because many of you are going to be starting businesses that may not have a proven track record yet, right? We do with what we're talking about here. We have a very amazing proven track record. We've been doing this for the last many, many years, and so we can speak to that. But what would you put in place of proven track record if this is a newer business that you're starting? What could you put there? Yeah, industrial averages, the potential based on industry. If you're pioneering something, maybe that's going to be a little difficult to put in there. But for most businesses that are started, they are deriving some or lots of information from either other similar businesses or other types of industries. And so you can draw on that industrial experience, right?
Now, I want to talk about this for just a moment in relation to Vaughn. Before Vaughn had ever done his first partnership, then his certainty is probably going to be as small as it's ever going to be. But even just going from never before to one time and doing a deal, then what does that do to his confidence? Yeah, now by the way, he's only done it once. But if he can do it once, then it might mean what? Yeah, and so by the way, his concept of track record, it is a moving target. It also means that your first deal might end up being the most challenging. You start a business, by the way, and where there's no industrial averages or where you are pioneering, you might have to give more of the business away until you have proof of concept. But then you get to the flip side eventually where people are buying 0.00001% of a share for $100 just to have the right to be now in this massive track recorded deal. So Vaughn started with nothing. 1 is a very powerful number. 1, you can add a digit on the end of that very easily. And then from there, you know, I made a decision many, many years ago that I could probably partner with thousands of people and do real estate everywhere around the country. And my preference is to teach people how to while I'm doing my own real estate so that we can actually change many people's economies by being empowered with the knowledge and information. What I really hope and wish for Vaughn is that he uses this as a business plan, creates value for his partner this year, and then over the next year goes on to create value for a dozen more people. And it's not just a dozen. You think of the people that are in those homes, the people that have jobs fixing them up. You think of all the people that benefit in this elaborate system, and then Vaughn is actually shaping his personal economy, and he's actually a part of the really bigger economy by creating great value in the world. So track record is something that shifts with time, and it's okay when you have the experience of none. One of the things that Stephen and I are doing that's really unique in this business plan is that when people align with us and are actually a part of our entire real wealth training system, then they're actually inheriting us as a part of their entire system. And that means that literally Vaughn can go to people that will never buy in because he already has. But what he'll do is he'll share this business plan, and he's going to borrow our track record because we're backing up Vaughn and actually doing the business with Vaughn. There's other people that Vaughn's not going to want to meet, and he can say, you should go join Done For You and the Real Wealth team and everything that they're doing, and you can pay them and get the benefits like I'm getting. And for those of you that aren't aware, we actually have a special part of our business. We're revealing that in a meeting tonight where people can earn $3,000 up to $10,000 thank you checks by just referring people that they don't want to partner with. Because if Vaughn creates a partnership and buys a lot of real estate, will that help Vaughn? If Vaughn refers 4 people, makes $40,000 and goes buys his own real estate that he's 100% ownership of, does that benefit Vaughn? That's a win-win. It means that no matter who you are, what you want, there's a win. You just want the done-for-you system, you want the training system, you want the partner system. And that's one of the things that you want to think of is when you're serving people in your business plan, you want to know your target audience, you want to know who you're there to serve and who you're there not to serve. If Felicia really did create an entire system around only working with young people and you kind of tuned out, but she was intentionally tuning you out, that might be a part of her business plan. I don't think she actually intentionally did that. But that in the business, you can't serve everybody. You need to be clear with who you can serve and who you want to serve. The reason why Stephen and I are so excited about this knowledge is because we spent nearly 10 years of our life only serving people with money. But the truth is, we started with nothing. And now we're correcting that. We're going into the marketplace and saying, hey, if you have money, we can show you a great team and system that can help you grow. But if you don't, we now can serve you too. And that's also a part of what this business plan is, because there's room for people with money, but there's room for people without money that are just starting with nothing. How many of you think that's pretty exciting? That's part of an all-inclusive business plan. Now, it's taken years to mature, but even tonight, we're releasing a massive opportunity for people that want to say, hey, I actually want to partner with you guys, and can you wave your wand and turn this into my real business plan where the work is largely done? And the answer is yes.
So there's 2 types of partners here that I see. And actually, as I look out amongst any group, everyone is a potential partner. They're either a direct partner or they're an indirect partner. This is kind of the example that Chris was just talking about. Either they're going to partner with you directly and go in and buy a home with you, or maybe they'll say, you know what, I'd rather just tap into these guys and take part of their team. And in that way, because of that commission or that thank you check that we can pay you, they now can become an indirect partner of sorts for you. If you begin to look at everyone as a huge boost, an amazing asset to your business and your company, they will become that way as well. So anyway.
Okay. So we've got this whole section here on creating a track record. And ultimately, as you're looking on page 3 and 4, under our real estate advantages, look at the headings. Longevity risk and asset spend down risk. A retirement nest egg you may never have to spend down. Facilitated real estate, meaning me and my team will do it for you. Proven track record or growing your assets through real estate. These are 5 tenets of benefits for you. And there's 2 pages worth that we've articulated, but now we're moving on to a new section. Now that remember we started, I want to just write these down so you understand the really big picture here. So we started executive summary, and this says, I actually know how to share my business with very few words. Is this important?
Yep.
And then I can expand that into what is it that I'm looking for? We're essentially saying I'm looking for a partner with money. And in this case, it's going to go towards the business. Then we said, what are your advantages? What do you give? What do you get? And now we're moving into the next part. This next part is a part of the system that says, what are we going to do? How does it happen? And now that they've been teased with a bird's eye view, once they know what they have to give and what they can get, everyone next wants to know how. How's it going to happen? And so for our specific business plan, in real estate, the next part of the how is we're going to go find deals. And we're not just going to find any deals. We have a unique position in the market, and your business has to have a unique selling proposition. It's called a USP. Write that in the margin. What is it that you can do that others can't? What is unique about you that others cannot provide? And this is one of our USPs in the how section, which is We take our investors into the nation's best markets. There's 350 markets. We go into the best 5 markets at any given time, and we take our investors there so that they can participate in the best and safest profits that are happening. How many of you smell a USP on that? That was a strange question.
What does it smell like?
It smells like USP to me.
It smells like profits. All right, so USP. Yeah, thank you very much. I'm here all day.
That was kind of
pretty-
that was a little maniacal.
Was that,
sounding.
sounds like profits. All right, let's move on from there.
We lost all the healers. Stephen.
That's right. I know. Sorry. Sounds like wonderful profits that we can bless people with. And
No, just don't say the
I'm
P
just
word.
kidding. All right, no profits. Cut. No, I'm just kidding. We're good. So, real estate markets, we just talked about that. And then we go into strategy. So, although we're finding the best properties in the best markets, some people may argue, well, anybody can find a good property, right? Anybody can go and find a good property. What are you doing with those properties, and what makes you, again, unique? What is that unique selling proposition? And here we talk about what our strategy is. And we talk about the returns. We talk about what they can expect. We talk about how we do it differently. If you've never been in the real estate world, most people know of 2 strategies overall, right? And most of those strategies are, I'm either going to buy it and hold it for 30 years, or I'm going to buy it and flip it in a few months, 3 months, right? So it's either the 30-year plan or the 3-month plan. And that's common knowledge. So again, as you start to learn about your industry, whatever your business might be, as you begin to learn about your industry and how it works, you can start to formulate what that unique selling proposition is for you. And you see here, we're talking about holding onto these properties for 5 to 7 years. And then we talk about what we do with it after that.
So part of what's happening in the house section is we're doing the mindset and the skill set. There is a philosophy where we are educating them. There are things that they don't know about how this works, so this is teaching time. I'm going to teach you about what we're doing with the skill sets, but then the philosophy is, why are we doing what we're doing? And so, for example, one of those here, if you see on page 5, it says, we only do the real estate deals that take the least time, effort, and risk. They are not market dependent. They create a service in the community, and they are the most profitable, okay? That is philosophy, and that's also the why we're doing what we're doing. And then we get into, well, what's the strategy? Oh, let me tell you the markets that we're in. Let me tell you what makes them really good deals. Now, this is the part that you need to customize in your business plan that is really important, that is going to be unique to whatever your model is. This is the place where you're really going to overcome objections, especially right here, because now we're in the thick of it. This is the meat and potatoes of the document, which is the secret sauce. Every document's going to have an executive summary. They're all going to say, what's in it for me, what's in it for you. But when you get to the what are we doing, this is a very important part to articulate well.
So once you go through here and looking at the right real estate markets, like we just talked about, we actually dive into what type of markets we're in, not just the areas that we're in, but even going a little more higher level, why are we investing in certain types of markets? We actually outline 2, equity growth markets and cash flow markets.
Now, one of the things that makes this possible, unique to our business, is Stephen and I years ago set up a company called Done For You Real Estate. How many of you are familiar with that company? Okay, some of you are. So our Done For You Real Estate, that's another one of our companies that we founded that is currently operating. We've stepped away from the day-to-day of that business because it's really on a very turnkey basis right now. But that is our specific system that we use for finding really good deals, doing the really good deals. And what we're doing here is we're referencing our partnership. So my company has actually made an agreement with Real Wealth, Stephen and I, to do something it's never done before. It's created an exclusive partnership where our investors can send this business plan out to their prospects, and they will agree to work with their prospects in doing deals together under a partnership umbrella. They don't work that way with anyone else. That is an exclusive right that we have. So what we're doing in this section is we're saying, look at our other companies' inventory, look at our properties for our growth markets. Turn the page to 6. We also have cash flow markets. For those of you that don't know the difference, one set of market has incredible growth gains year over year because it was bought in a market that had tanked and it's still on its rebuild and getting to its reevaluation. We have other markets where we just get an extraordinary high cash on cash return. This is more of an exit play for people that are really trying to dominate the cash flow space. So we shared the number of deals, we share some of the track record, and if you turn the pages, you're going to see some charts and graphs. Now, if you're starting a brand new business, you might not have all these charts and graphs, or you might be using data that are industry averages, because we've been doing this for 10 years, we actually have quite a bit by way of what is the market research on these properties? What is our management summary? What is our cash flow and total out-of-pocket summary? What is our property resale summary?
If you're not asleep right now, chances are you're an oracle. All right. Either that or you really like the shapes and you're a visionary. So you're like, this is awesome. Look at that. That's a pie.
And then
that's right. That's true. No?
If it is a visionary, make sure this is in color.
That's right. In color.
yes, and add a unicorn.
and
All right.
add a unicorn.
Okay, pages 12 and 13, 14 and 15, 16 and 17, these are case studies on sample deals. They are real properties that we've actually done. Now I want to ask you a question. If someone was serious about investing in real estate, and they saw our track record that we have done this thousands of times, what does that create for people that are looking at it for the first time? Trust, confidence, security. And what does it create when they see properties where we're actually delivering on these 10 to 20% per annum gains? Is that something that their banks are doing? Is that something that 401ks or IRAs are even coming close to? Is that something that appreciation in their home is doing? It's not doing any of those things. And I want to pause for a second and make sure we're addressing the unique nature of this business, since it is our example for this training on how to find partners for your business. One of the things that is really unique that Stephen and I are doing is that we are creating a real solution and creating real value for people who are out there in the real estate community. Stephen and I have helped our clients now with our other company. We may have done thousands of properties with thousands of clients, totaling nearly $1 billion. But the reality for a lot of those clients is what we've done is we've given them an upgrade in a solution, but many of them still don't have a total solution, which means compared to where their money was, 401ks or IRAs or home equity, the real estate that we've provided for them, it's doing significantly better. But there's only one drawback to that system. When you run out of money, then you only can grow at the rate that your real estate can compound. For some people, that's more than enough because they've got time. For some people, it's not nearly enough because they don't have time. This entire partnering system, this is augmenting the perfect solution that says what I knew in the beginning. How many houses was I able to get through before I got stuck? 3 houses. And then since I've put my money back into real estate, but I've learned the value of a partnership. I've learned that I mitigate my risk and I value getting half of something versus 100% of nothing. Partnering has been a way that I've gone and done real estate. There might be someone sitting in this room that says, Chris, I've got the funds to buy 2 properties. And Steve and I could say, wow, over the next 10 years, we can turn that into a handful of properties. But will that handful of properties still be enough for what you need? Not for everyone, and it depends on the size of their dreams and goals and what they want. What we're doing here is we're bringing a solution to the market that the market has not seen, that Vaughn is now the first official recipient. Others unofficially have done it, but largely in only a family setting. And that solution is, why limit your success? Why limit yourself only to the money that you've been able to put into real estate, if any at all? Because some people we want to help have nothing. Some people we want to help have something. But ultimately, we're limited. And the only way to get unlimited is to learn how to partner. Now, that just happens to be what the message is in real estate. But regardless of what your business desire and intention is, partnering is how you continue growing and doing more rather than being stuck by what you have, whether it's money in a 401k or money in real estate. Real estate, our way, is simply going to grow better than the other markets. But will it be enough in the end? Partnering for the majority of people is the final augmentation, which means that when someone does a deal or 2 or 3, there's something way more important. Vaughn may not even know this yet, but there is something way more important than the money he'll ever make on this first partnership. Let's say this partnership over the next 10 years goes on to buy 5 or 10 properties. Let's say at the end of the day, they're each splitting $400,000 of profits. How many of you would consider that a successful partnership? Okay, that $400,000, I would trade it in an instant for the track record to do it 10 times. The 400,000 is insignificant. It is infinitesimally small and puny if you understand the greater asset. The greater asset is not a financial one. It is the experience and the knowledge.
And you guys see what they're offering us is the opportunity to use
grab
their
microphone.
track record.
Oh, here's the mic. Let's say that one more time.
And you guys see what they're offering us is the opportunity to use their track record to build our track record.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that is, by the way, one of the biggest shortcuts we can give people specifically that want to create a level of independence with a big why and a big reason in the game of real estate.
That's the vision I got in this room a year ago when you were talking about opening up partnering for the future. We just didn't know how, and it has developed over the year, and it's amazing.
Awesome. So, Savannah, I appreciate that comment, and I just want everyone to really kind of hone in on this. This first partnership is a pattern, and the most important thing you can do right now is take care of your partner, help them have a great experience, follow all of the advice we're teaching in this course, because we're going to talk about how you manage your partnerships effectively and well. And as long as you do a great job taking care of them and helping them have his positive experience in real estate, then the real value of what you're doing here, and this is true for not just Vaughn, this is true for every one of you. If you can learn how to create value in the world with one partner, then what can that really mean for your entire future?
You can become limitless.
Yes.
Shameless plug. Isn't that weird 3-day rah-rah event thing? That people do? So it is. It really is. And friends, this is the bigger picture, is what we're sharing with you is transcending the number one. And what we're doing is we're just putting a little bend to it. The bend, when you were zero, and you have a dream, but you don't know how to put it together, that can be disheartening. True? Okay, so instead of that, there's value in this, but this is the real value. This number here, it has no limit. If you can do it once, this is what I learned in real estate. If 9 properties has gotten me halfway to my goal of independence so I don't have to be in this job, that eventually years later would put me on a path to figuring out more of who I am and how am I going to build and create my life and what is my legacy and what is my destiny and what do I really want to do? Matt King, my father-in-law, is such an important relationship to me. But I'm also so glad that it didn't end there. I'm glad that I learned that I could perpetuate and I could grow. What we're training you on here, friends, this is simple. This is worthwhile. It's worth going through the first learning curve to figure out how to do, because if you can do it once, you can what? And you can't put a value on that. But whatever it means, whatever the value of this first partnership is, you can magnify that and multiply that by any number that you have time, effort, and energy for, which for most of us, we go from, hey, this gave me a financial boost to, well, I have all the resources that I need, so why am I doing this? And what are these resources really for? And what is the good that I want to bring about in the world? The biggest thing that I want this to do is I want this to liberate you, not make you financially free. I don't want you to be financially free. I want you to be financially free. And I want that liberation to give you the permission to say, what do I really want to do with my life? Because I don't believe that the purpose of life is to make money. And I wouldn't also call it a necessary evil. It's not evil. It's a part of life. But what part and to what end? For me, my goal is simple. If making money in the end was only about taking care of me, then I think I missed something. This principle is really big, and it's way bigger than you or me. And we're unleashing it so that you can go where you want to go with your life.
Okay, so we want to jump into the last portion here, which is management and exit strategies. But before we get into management and exit strategies, part of this is understanding the mindset of the majority of the people that you're probably going to be approaching with this. And this kind of goes into what Chris was saying here just a second ago. Most people don't have this big vision with what you have and what you're growing and what you know is possible and what you can do. And so as you're presenting information to them, you have to ease in a little bit and help them understand, hey, I've thought about some of your worries. I've thought about some of the things that may keep you up at night. So let's address some of those. So here, we're kind of just going into some of the roles and helping them understand that we've got a long-term vision here.
This is one of the most important parts of the document. This is what determines the novice from the expert. There are things your people want to know, and when someone's brand new, these are not the things that you're thinking about. You're excited about that there's an opportunity. But an investor, a possible partner, they're glad that there's an opportunity, but you're likely the one with the passion. They're the money. So they're glad and happy that you got the passion, but do you know what they're wondering? How do I get out of this deal? How does it wrap itself up? And how are we going to communicate and take care of each other throughout the process? Because ultimately people are going to make their business partner decisions on, do I like you? Do I like how I feel when I'm around you? Do I feel like you're really going to take care of me? And this is what this is communicating. It's not a, I want to give you a hug feeling. It's a, I'm going to take responsibility feeling. And so there's some notes that I want you to take in the margin on this one. The first part here is it says below, and we're going to do this one verbatim because this is going to be in every business partnership. Below is a bulleted list of the roles and responsibilities of how we work together in the partnership. You're a passive member. We're already using the language of member because that's the language of an LLC, which in a real estate business is the preferred entity. It's the preferred entity for many businesses, but you should check with the lawyer on what that looks like. For most of you, that's going to be perfect. The passive member's responsibility, they get 50% ownership and they provide capital contribution on all investments. They finance the properties, meaning the credit. They meet with the managing member. By the way, who's the managing member? Me. We're using the language managing member because that's the language in the what? The LLC, that's the official legal language. To discuss strategy, we're going to review information and make key decisions and go about doing whatever else you do. That's a cheeky way of saying, don't
quit your day job.
We don't need we don't want two cooks in the kitchen. Have you ever tried that? Oh my gosh. Especially when they're both wielding dueling knives, right?
All right, next one here. Me. Managing member responsibilities, again, 50% ownership. It's all outlined here. Work actively with my team to identify the best properties. Meet to discuss investment options. Daily decision making with the team. Identify best times with coaching team on when to sell, refinance, multiply a portfolio, and report back to my partner or you. Create monthly and quarterly reports on portfolio performance. In other words, I'm taking care of all of the day-to-day, and I will be sure to communicate everything that I need to with you.
Now, we've also just listed this out the same way it's going to be in the LLC. You're going to cut and paste because when we get to that part of the operating agreement, ultimately it's going to come down to who are the people that own what parts doing what things, and it's all where?
Right here in your business plan.
It's already right here. So then we get into the goal. The goal of the portfolio is to grow it. We are going to follow our established systems and protocols. We watch market inflections and growth patterns to identify ideal timing on decisions. And we apply all profits to further investing unless a disbursement is needed. Partner communication. I will communicate with you through quarterly meetings, as needed in-person meetings, and phone conversations. How important are these reports and meetings? They're really important. This is the connection. If you didn't have these, you might never see them otherwise. So these are really, really important times. And I'm going to tell you that these are the fun meetings to have. Let me just take a little time with you and update you on what's happening, what's going on. Do you need to create an elaborate reporting system for a business like this? No, because when you buy a house and it's rented out and you're trying to do that for 5 years, what happened this last quarter? Well, we collected rents, we had expenses, we had cash flow. This is what happened. What's the story of this property over the last quarter? We have 4 properties. Here's the money that was collected, and here's just a high-level summary. And you know what? They appreciate that. They like knowing what the bank account balance is. So my partners on my deals, each quarter they get a report. It's very simple, and it just tells them what's happening. And that communication is important, but I want you to write this one down. Beware not to just communicate digitally or through text. Press the flesh, have in-person meetings, talk on the phone. And the reason why is because in this particular business, I can go and have gone years with minimal conversing with my partners. And do you know what happens over years without much talking? People forget things. People forget intentions, they forget business plans, and they forget why we're doing what we're doing. And so this is a very important relationship. To keep it living and breathing takes very little time. But you want to make that investment so that people have an opportunity to connect, be reminded of why we're doing what we're doing, get into some of the details, handshake and hug, and keep that relationship doing well.
All right. Exit strategies. The portfolio will continue to grow and expand as we make decisions to continue growing it. Again, it says this, as we make decisions to continue growing it. It may not always be the case. After we have multiplied the portfolio, a time will come to begin either selling off or slowing down the growth of the portfolio. These decisions will be made together. We want to help them understand that they have a say in this. This is still their initial investment. They're the capital contributor. So before we go forward and turn that one home into two or the two into four or whatever we're doing, we're going to make sure that we have some face-to-face conversations here.
Now, real quick, how important is the exit strategy to an investor putting money in?
Very.
Yeah, and by the way, it doesn't necessarily matter what the exit strategy is. What's more important is that you thought enough to have that conversation and to bring that up. When I partner with someone, I ideally want to be involved with them for a 10-year period of time. I don't partner with anyone that wants to do a deal and then later split it and sell it. We want to take the profits and we want to exchange it into more real estate so that one can turn into two and two can turn into three and three can turn into five, and the portfolio with time can grow. And if that's important to me, then where does that need to be? It needs to be in here. A big part of what this is, friends, one of the biggest reasons why we're scared about this 2-word business plan is because we don't know what we want. In this business plan, this is an expression of what?
It's
an expression of what I want and also what I'm offering, and can we come together and meet and create something that's mutual and really beneficial for both parties? And so we're giving you all the things that you really need to think about, and I'm just letting you know that telling them how you're going to manage and communicate with them and then sharing with them the exit strategy, this is important for them so that they understand, is this a 50-year plan? Is this the I don't get my capital out, but I get distributions for life? Is this we're going to do this thing and in 12 months we're selling it and we're done with it? And so your business is going to be different. You know, for us, it's usually we're talking about people investing for a 5 or 10 year period of time, and we're setting that expectation because that's what we do here in real estate.
Awesome. The goal is to grow the cash flow significantly in equity until it is consolidated into paid off real estate with a maximum cash flow, or simply sell off the portfolio and split the profits. So that's the goal, right? We want to grow this, and we said it in the very beginning, this is a 5 to 10 year partnership. That's what we're looking for, right? And does life happen sometimes? So if life happens and by year 2, they've got a massive emergency and need to pull cash out, is it possible according to this exit strategy? Absolutely. It's very simple, very short, but they understand that there are options.
Now, in just a moment, we're going to do some open Q&A on anything from this document, so be thinking about what are your questions as I go through this last section on next steps. This last paragraph is pretty important. It says, if you have assets, is it possible that you sent this to someone and you don't know what their assets are?
Yeah.
Yes. If you have assets available in a 401k, IRA, home equity that you're interested in putting into real estate, then the next step is for us to meet with this is very important, with one of the coaches on my team. Together we will review the market, answer your questions, and determine if we're going to invest together as a partnership with myself and my team doing all the work and you supplying the financial contribution. Okay? No, this is not Stephen. This is actually very unique just to our business plan. So there are some people that are associated like Vaughn with our organization. So there are some people that are going to continue joining our organization this year. And essentially in our business plan, if I had to write up a picture of what this looks like, basically if we go back, do you guys remember this 50-50 part? And we said this person puts up the money. When people work with Stephen and I, this is what we do. They join our Real Wealth team where we train and educate them on how to put partnerships together. And then what we do is we give them permission to use the business plan. They have our permission and our backing, and it's giving correct credit the way that it is approved in our company, Steve Earl done for you, and all those things here in this document. And once they have the business plan, they're leveraging our track record, which means our team that will do all of the deals, all of the management. And then the next thing that's really important is we ask them to go out there and find people that they can do real estate with so that they can own the real estate. Stephen and I, we don't take any ownership of the real estate we help people do. We're literally helping Vaughn do these deals, and we're not asking a penny of it, but we have a fiduciary responsibility because he's part of our program for life to help him to nurture those relationships. I had a meeting with him and his partner. We sat down, made sure that everyone saw eye to eye as a part of our experiment of bringing this to the market and learning from that experience. The other thing that I'm doing for Vaughn is that, if I'm speaking really honestly, if Vaughn's brand new to the business, it's very possible that his explanation without this document will have plot holes. How many of you think that's possible? Even Felicia, who's fiery woman who's rocking it out and knows what she wants, the best of us are going to have some plot holes. So this eliminates the plot holes, but then that's just the first thing that I'm going to do to help Vaughn. There's a second thing that I want to do to help Vaughn. Then there's the follow-up conversation, and do you know how this ends? Hey, if you have some assets and you are interested in this, our next step is not to meet with me. Our next step is to meet with who? Me and someone on my team. So in our company, we have trained and designated a gentleman by the name of Rodney Beecham. He's my most senior coach in my Done For You team. And Rodney will sit down with Vaughn and Rick, and Rick, or whoever his partner is, and he's going to be asking question after question after question. Because by the way, will this raise questions? Yes, it's supposed to create questions. And so we've actually gone one step further and said, hey, we'll supply a member of our team that can answer those questions. And I want to ask, how helpful was that for you?
Very helpful, yeah.
How, were there questions that Rodney was able to answer that Vaughn could not?
Oh, he had a lot of understanding, experience that I didn't. I want to learn how to do what he does so that I'm there when he's there 9 to 5.
Yes.
Monday through Friday. I want to be there evenings and weekends. And so it's a learning process that I will pick up too.
And I want to ask you, are you already learning?
Oh, yes.
You're already learning. You're on your first one. You've got your learning curve underway. But instead of saying, good luck on your own, here's the plan, this is actually a training program where we supply a team to help do it for you.
He calls me roughly once a week, and we catch up, converse, answer questions, set schedules for the next week or two.
And Stephen and I, we pay for that training for Rodney and our team to show up and do these things. But the reason why we're doing it is because we know Vaughn won't need that forever. It's just Vaughn needs help getting his first couple partnerships under his feet, and then guess what? He's going to be off to the races. The real value of this knowledge for you might come in your first partnership, but for some of you, there are 10 more partnerships ahead of it that are far more valuable, and so you need to cherish and take care of this first one because it's your learning baby. It's what your growth curve, it's what you're gaining all that insight from. So the other thing is, Vaughn, in using this system, has the business plan. We're supplying all of the back-end fulfillment. Vaughn is taking responsibility for how he communicates and works with his partner. But then the last thing is making sure that Vaughn has a team that can help provide knowledge and information, just like I have in my life. I have right now, one of the goals that I have this year is I want to get way more in-depth at understanding business accounting. And so I'm working now far more closely with how I convert financial numbers into managerial decisions. And I'm doing that with the help of my personal financial team and a mentor that I've hired that is showing and training me how to do this. I have people in my life that are a part of my team that are getting me gooder at the things that I want to, because the better I get, the gooder I get. All right? I haven't taken any English courses yet. All right, so I want to be the goodest, right? So this whole business plan, if you really look at it, there was probably 6 of the 19 pages that had some customized information flowing through the things that we put up here on the board. Notice that more than half of the document was examples and images or case studies saying this is real, or we have something to look at that helps us understand. I just recently did this entire process for a convention center that I currently have under construction in Utah County. Is it now a good time to share that?
Now's a great time. Yeah, let's do that.
Let me just share that a little bit. So I want to tell you just a little bit about a deal where I use this knowledge on an almost near daily basis. That's how valuable and important it is. Yes, it is.
Hydration's good.
So I have been, for the last few years, I've been renting event space to hold events. And something that some people don't realize is that every time I rent something like the Provo Marriott or the Utah Valley Convention Center, there's usually a baseline cost somewhere between $20,000 and $30,000 just to get the space available for 3 days. And then I've got the cost of my employees, the gear, the equipment, the production team, and before you know it, you can spend $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 on putting on an event. Yeah, so there's a lot of moving pieces that do that. But because I've been renting now for the last couple years, and by the way, I'm a little keen on real estate. And
You haven't noticed.
it chafes me a little bit to be renting these convention center spaces. And so about a year and a half ago, I started looking for a space that I could use as a convention center, but easier said than done. Because anyone that is going to utilize land and build a commercial center that could be used and double as a convention center, you have to deal with the parking ratio to building ratio. And so if I want to find a place that I can rent, I usually only have 1/10 or 2/10 of the parking that I really require to make the event space work. I've had some places under contract over the years, but this one had low ceilings. This has got beams and poles in the way. And it took me a little over a year before I finally found a location that gave me high ceilings, no posts and beams, and more than adequate parking. And so I went to get that deal under contract. Now I'm bringing this up because there's a couple things specifically that I want you to understand in this deal. Because I want you to show Stephen and I are spending all day today talking about one of two creative real estate strategies that we predominantly use. Right now, this one is called partnering. It's called what?
Partnering.
How many of you are starting to get a really good idea about what partnering means about now?
Awesome.
Okay, this is one of my strategies, but there's a second strategy that I use. I wrote a book about it. It's all about a system I created called compassionate financing, and this is about doing a lease option or purchasing a property through a lease. Lease with an option to buy. Who's ever heard of that before? Okay, so if you've ever seen like a house that has a for rent, rent to own sign on it, that might be one of my houses, for example. That's the kind of real estate that I'll do, where I'm putting tenants who can't work with banks to get into ownership usually, and I will help them achieve home ownership by putting them in these homes. And this program has spread all across the nation. It's been able to be a great blessing to a lot of individuals. Frankly, if someone has this partnership profits course and they have the lease option course, then at least in the game of real estate, you can do anything and never have anyone ever tell you again that you need a bank or money or credit to do anything. And so I want you to understand that, because the way a lease option works is you basically go to an existing owner of something and say, hey, I'd like to buy that, but over time. And will you rent it to me in the meantime, but already put terms in the agreement of how I would buy that in time from you? Would you be willing to do that? If I buy something on lease with it and I have an option to be able to buy it, let me ask you, was a bank involved to make it happen? No. Who's the bank?
The
owner.
The current owner on the property. So by the way, does that make sense why I don't need banks? I can't tell you how little I've personally used my credit in the last 10 years, period. I just, every time I'm about to, I'm like, well, I'll just do my lease option. Now, I want you to have an understanding of that, because I want to just share with you some of the more specific numbers on how the knowledge I'm giving you today, friends, it's not just real estate, it's not just commercial real estate, it's not the bakery on the corner, it's not just the health business that you want to launch. Whatever you have a passion for, whatever the dream is, specifically in my situation, those two systems help me do anything that I want. Here's how they worked out. So I finally found the perfect commercial space that has 500 parking spaces. And it is a happy commercial building that looks really sad right now, but we're turning the frown upside down. And it is 17,000 square feet. So it's a nice big place that ultimately will be able to house probably events up to 600 people. Personally, I really like doing 300, 400, 500 person events. I feel like once I get over 400 that we start losing some connection. It gets harder to manage and things gum up and slow down a little bit. 200, 300 people, 400 people, you can rock that out. So we built this with maximum capacity. And what I did is I went to the owners and I found this and I said, you know what, I would like to lease this property. And they said, okay, Chris, but if you lease it, then that's going to cost you $7,500 a month. And I'm thinking, well, right now, based on my commercial building that the places that I rent for my events and also the places where I do my business, I'm spending over $30,000 a month. So by the way, how many of you think that if you could turn 30,000 and down to, like, this could make sense? All right, okay. So I found something that made sense here, and this is what I said. I would like to buy this property from you. And what I would like, and what we negotiated is, give me 10 years to buy it. So I'm not going to buy it now. And by the way, what's the purchase price going to be? And they said, well, Chris, we're really trying to dump this. So we're going to sell it to you for $1,030,000. Now, this property already in prime condition is worth around $2.5 million. It's not in prime condition right now. But so they said, we'll sell it for $1,030,000. And by the way, that's if you buy it within the first year. After that, we're just going to tack on $20,000 a year. And I said, that's very fair. This deal makes sense. $7,500 a month. By the way, I can roll all of I can have my entire corporate office move here and have a corporate section, and then I can have my event section, and we're basically starting this event center. So then I said, well, how much money are we going to put down on this? And this is what we agreed on. Well, you don't need to put any money down.
I can afford that.
Yeah, I can afford that too. You don't need to put any money down, but within the first few months of signing the contract, we're going to assume that you've done your tenant improvements. You've fixed up the place. So it's going to be $700, then it'll be $7,500 a month. Okay. So to date, I haven't come out of pocket, but this is part one. Right now, I now have the ability to buy this property without a bank. How many of you see that? Now I'm just a month or two away from having SBA actually put the loan in place, and I'll be actually technically buying it and having a real bank in place because I really like the price and it seems more prudent to secure it now rather than later. But that's half the problem. Here's the other half of the problem. I need to fix this place up, and I want this world-class event center. So I got with my architectural team. I'm working with Provo City. I hired my designers and everything, and it turns out that it's going to be $1 million to be able to basically fix this property up. So I'm like, okay, this property is going to be worth $2.75 million. That's where the appraisal's at. I can buy it for $1 million, but I need $1 million of repairs, and then there will probably be $600,000 of equity at the end of the day. Inconsequential to the savings on a regular monthly basis for a company saving hundreds of thousands of dollars a year than it was spending. That, and today we're in this wonderful facility, and next month I'm in a different facility, and next week I'm in a different facility, and life just gets way more simple. And I've got Carson and the entire team like, woo, no more moving equipment and rental trucks, right? So there was happiness in the land. So I need to figure out how to get $1 million. Well, doing the SBA loan, SBA said, Chris, we'll cover 75% of it when you put your loan in place. And then they said, which means, well, Chris, my guess at the end of the day is I'll probably need $400,000. So you know what I did? I need $400,000. Based on what you've been learning today, what's Chris going to do? I need to create a what? Only took a couple hours. Put a business plan together, and what I did is I gave it to one of my past partners, and I said, this is the deal that I want to do. And by the way, this event center, it's not only going to save money, but it's also going to make money. It turns out that there are only 3 venues in all of Utah County that can do an event with 500 people. And as a result, in Utah County, rates used to be $10,000 to rent for 3 days, and now it's not. It's what? It's $30,000 for the Provo Marriott, and they have a minimum requirement on food and beverage. They've got a little monopoly going down because they don't have competition, because it's hard to get parking for an event center with all the ideal, and it took me a year to track this thing down. So all of a sudden, if I become one of the 4 players with a brand new event center, how many of you think I might be able to get this thing rented out pretty good? Yeah. Well, it turns out that running this entire business is around $450,000 a year. But it turns out that it has the ability to bring in between $1.7 and $2 million a year. Okay? Now, by the way, are there risks? Do you think those risks are in the business plan? Those risks are in the business plan. So I went and I just shared my business plan with my partner, and I said, basically, if you come in, I'll give you a percentage of all the profits, And he looked at it, he said, you know, Chris, I'm actually looking at getting out of my job in the next 2 years. We've had a great investing run in the past. I love the homes that we've done, but I now need to get my assets into more of a cash flow heavy investment. And he said, that looks like the ticket for me. Because even if it's only rented out at 20% capacity, it's still profitable. So there is risk, but unless you have a nincompoop running it, building it, managing it, etc., then it turns out that even if it's a halfway performer, it's going to be something profitable. So he said, Chris, I'll give you the money. We'll let SBA come up with the rest. We'll buy out the original person that did give you a 10-year lease and fulfill on that right away. And between lease option and between partnering, those are the only two systems that it took to make this entire deal happen. Now, by the way, there's more advanced training techniques for those that are in our system that I can teach you. For example, I have an additional business plan. I could sell off 25% of my ownership in that and be given $1.5 million for it because someone would be making 20% a year on their money in that business plan. So I can either sell off a portion of it, I can stay and actually do the cash flow on it. These are the things that I learned about in the very beginning of my career that went right over my head. And I was just like, I don't get you, and I don't get what you're doing, and those numbers are kind of scary, but I want to understand. Anyone here feeling that way? Okay. Friends, that's what we're teaching you today. And by the way, at the end of this day, Stephen and I, for years together, when we first started real estate, we did teach our $3,000 lease option course. And that is a course that we're making available to anyone here today for $1,000. And if you have partner profits and if you have that lease option course, then if your game is business and real estate, then you should be able to do everything you always ever want to do in business and real estate without money and without credit. How many of you think that that's pretty neat? Okay. People have been paying a lot more for that course over the years, but the reason why we're making it available for $1,000 and giving you access to our community and ongoing handholding and training is because we're at a place in our life where it's time to start thinking in terms of a far bigger legacy, make the information way more available, give the real handholding and help to as many people as possible. So this is an example of something recent that I'm doing in my life. This is what I've done on my Sundance property, by the way. This is what I've done. This is how I organize all of my businesses. All of my businesses are utilizing these two very specific strategies, and that's why I was so excited to teach the partnering for you today, because the reality is that I've been teaching lease option, but if you can pair that up with partner profits, you become an unstoppable force if you master the techniques and principle, and you can build and grow, create value, and watch dreams really give birth and come to life. So, let's jump back in on this business plan before we move to the next segment. Any questions on what we've been covering here? If you want to know how to become like Vaughn, we'll talk about that at the very end, because some people want to know. We're here to teach you this and give this to you as a pattern, a mooster. This is something that you look at for how do I extrapolate and use this information, because it's all about find, share, and finalize. And we're about to go into the finalize part. But like we said, this is a real business plan. And some people are like, Chris, I want your team that actually will do all that real estate. And what if I want this to be my business? How many of you would want this to be your business? If you want it to be your business, we'll have that conversation on what that looks like.
Yep. Anybody else? Yes.
So with the lease option that you said, the $1,000 program with, so if I have partners and I'm kind of ready to go, but I would like some guidance and things on how to, is that the part, is that just like another seminar, or is that like I get kind of mentored to
That's a great question. So we teach that one periodically inside of our training group. We have a full digital program that we give you that trains it to you first, and then we put you into the live community for the hand-holding part. And I only recommend that course if you want to do real estate. If you just want to do business, there's a really good chance that unless you're ever dealing with a commercial building, then you might not need that knowledge. You would only need this partner profit knowledge. But if you really want to step more deeply, and by the way, I want to share something. This is really important for all of you. Some of you are going to get into real estate, and how many of you think it's possible on your own you could come across a good deal with a little bit of elbow grease? Okay, if you did, could you tie up that deal and then put the information just on that deal in this exact identical format and find a partner to come up with the money to do the deal with you? Yes or yes? So this works with everything. It works with
That was
what?
gold right there, by the way. That was.
So it doesn't, whatever you want to do, if you've ever used money as an excuse, it's only because you don't know how to partner. And this is really the missing gap. Great question, thank you.
Any other questions? Yes.
With my idea for what I want to do, there's going to be multiple income venues, and how would you put them all underneath one LLC, or would you put them into different corporations and different LLCs, even though they're going to all be on the same property?
This is a perfect segue of where Stephen and I are heading right now. So thank you for that question. We're going to jump into it right now. And this is now the time as we approach, you know, these next couple hours, this is the time to start writing down your real in-depth questions, because currently we now have found investors. How many, raise your hand if you feel like you know how to find and gather investors. Raise your hand with this business plan if you can use this plan or modify it to create a plan to now share your business ideas with people. Raise your hand. Okay, so the last thing that you need right now to make all this happen is, we call this finalizing the deal, which is, okay, let's get really technical on how we actually put the thing together. Like, how does money wire? How do we form the LLC? How do we create all the little rules so that we can get off to the races and really make magic happen?
And we're going to rock and roll, but I do have a feeling like maybe we should break for 10 minutes. I'm like, everyone's like, oh, thank you. Yes. So let's just do this. Let's do a quick 10-minute break. That's kind of like a New York minute, right? So it's faster. So a very quick 10-minute break, and then come back to your seats so we can continue. Everyone online, hold for 10 minutes. We'll be right back.
Cool. Or like Bob Ross would say,
tries to blind our eyes. Oh, we're dancing forever under the beautiful skies.
Somewhere over the ocean, a spark just to ignite. I'm stuck in my hometown, waiting for your reply.
All I see is darkness. There's no sound, only silence.
You could change everything tonight. This is your chance to do something right.
Holding on to the memories and photos that remain. Still lost in oblivion, no one to show the way.
Oh, climbing a mountain to reach my highest goals. You'll never understand how I thought you were the one.
All I see is darkness. There's no sound, only silence.
You could change everything tonight. This is your chance to do something
Oh, hey you, what you gonna do? Feeling in a weekend kind of mood. Don't even try staying at home. I know you're a bad girl trying to be good. Looking so high, looking so fine. Baby, for tonight I want you to be mine. We're going for a ride. Oh, we're going for a ride. So won't you come on out with me? Forever young and free. So won't you come on out with me? There's no place I'd rather be. Together we'll escape deep into the night. Just do whatever that feels alright. So won't you come on out with me? So won't you come on out with me? Oh hey, what you gonna say? I just wanna take you far away. Don't go to sleep, staying in bed. Gonna pick you up, so be ready to play. You're looking so hot, looking so fine. Baby, for tonight, I want you to be mine. We're going for a ride. We're going for a ride. So won't you come on out with me? Forever young and free. So won't you come on out with me? There's no place I'd rather be.
All right, friends, let's take our seats. Take our seats again.
So won't you come on out with me? So come on out, yeah. So come on out. Oh, no, 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 no. Close your eyes. show you the best of my world. Hold me tight, making memories, let's do this together. Flying high, only me and you, girl. I want you by my side, I want you by my side. So won't you come on out with me, forever young and free. So won't you come on out with me, there's no place I'd rather be. Together we'll escape deep into
All right, friends, come take your seats. We're going to hand out these documents right now.
So won't you come on out with me? So won't you come on out with me? So please come on out, yeah. So won't you come on out now, baby, please? Now won't you come on out with me? Ooh, please come on out.
I try to fix it. I try to picture someone else but you. But then you kissed me, and now there's nothing else I wanna do. For the record, I never thought it would be you and me. You said tomorrow, let's see what happens, but it's plain to see. And tonight we're like fire and ice. I'm burning all over, and we're starting a riot tonight. Don't want this to be over. Any second we'll all burn down.
All right. I don't know, Vaughn. When I'm about to go on stage, you bring up the most random things. You try to, don't throw my groove off. All right. Let's look at our playbook. Can you see that one right there? All right. Did you have a good break? Yeah. Was that needed? Yeah. Steven sensed something. I didn't know what that was. I'm like, why are we letting these people go? How are we going to get all these kitty cats herded back together? But
We got it.
You actually
We did it.
really
Good work,
well.
guys. Good work.
With the laser pointer. By the way, so we have never taught this information before. This is our first time. Is this okay what we're doing? Is this working out for you guys? Is this sparking some ideas and getting you really thinking about what you can do and create? Yes. Awesome. Well, that's good.
Thank you.
We've been doing it for a very long time. This is our first time just really sharing
In
it.
this format, yeah.
Yes, so this information, you're fine. So this information is digitally in your inbox. And I'm saying this loud enough for Amber to hear that everyone that is live also has an email of all of this stuff digitally. And the reason why is because, and this isn't a Word document, not a PDF. It's meant to be edited. And so it's in an editable format for you as well.
If you have registered for this, then you will have it in the email. And if you haven't, then register after the fact so that we have your information and we can get it to you.
Okay, now friends, if you remember, let's just really get back to somewhere a long time ago. Here we go. Okay, so today is all structured by find, share, finalize. With this specific real estate business plan, we have found investors. And by the way, did Marianne do a really great job teaching us how to do that? Let's give it up for Marianne, make some noise, right? Now you've got a business plan. And friends, don't sweat bullets on this, but you've got all of the components in here that you need. And so if you're going to do anything, you yourself should be informed about what you're doing. True? Yes. And if you can articulate it in this plan, then it means that you are informed. True?
True.
Now you've got a well-rounded understanding of whatever you're presenting. And now you have someone that has reviewed it, you've had a conversation, and they're starting to think, you know what? I think we might have something here. And now we get to this third final part, which is it's time to finalize the deal. These are the details that they care about, that you need to care about, that are ultimately going to solidify the partnership and determine whether it happens or not. And so what we're going to do during this segment is Stephen and I are going to talk about two things. How many?
Two.
First thing we're going to do is we're going to say, hey, we're going to show you how to get incorporated. And by the way, we're just going to give it to you. So whatever state you live inside the United States, we're going to show you exactly how to do that. And then the second thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about how do you manage that partnership and the business so that we get into the real world tactics of, well, I have an LLC. How do I get a business set up? That, like, do I need a business license? Do I need a bank account? Who puts the money in what? We're going to go through all of that right now. And by the time we finish that, you're going to have a really good understanding of, oh my goodness, I can find investors and partners. I can present information factually to them. I can meet with them and answer their questions. And then I know how to get the business up and going and launched. You guys ready?
So have you ever heard the term, the devil's in the details? Yeah, I don't like that, right? That's a reflection of perception, right? I like to say the dream is in the details. So we're going to start going through the details right now of how you put that dream into place. And starting with your LLC setup. Who in the room or who online, who has set up an LLC before? Oh, good. We've got some people that have done this before. Did you do that on your own? Did you do that with the lawyer? What was your experience?
How many of you did it all by yourself? Hands up. How many of you have ever paid someone else to set one up for you?
Okay.
Okay, good.
Good.
So what we're going to do right now is, if you are doing a real estate LLC, we're going to show you exactly how to set up that type of business. And just know that anytime you deviate from what we're about to share, it's a really good idea to get a lawyer involved. If you're going to add a third partner or a fourth partner, it's a really good idea to get some legal advice. A lot of people don't always go to the lawyer because it's going to cost money. But often things can cost a whole lot more money if you haven't done your proper due diligence. Never let that be a deterrent. What we're sharing with you is when we partner and do real estate with people, this is our personal lawyer-approved contract and operating agreement. So lawyer approved for who? We paid our lawyers and have their express permission to be able to share this with you. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't do any further due diligence, especially as you start altering the agreement and changing it from a very simple 2-member LLC operating agreement. 2 people, person A, person B, come together. One's got the money, one's going to be active in the business, and that is what this is really designed for. So we're going to go through this quickly. The instructions make a lot of sense, show you how to do this, and we've also written up the instructions so that if you live anywhere in all 50 states, that you can go onto your local online government website, go through this exact same process, but have a pattern to flow from the LLC.
Okay, perfect. So let's just kind of start here at the very top, and you can see that disclaimer in bold, underlined, just what Chris just said. You are always encouraged to consult an attorney to ensure appropriate consideration of all the legal implications of your choice of entity and filing. As a matter of fact, I know that we have people from all across the country, as well as people in other countries, that are utilizing this information. And I had a conversation with a guy in Canada just yesterday, and I said, look, this information is amazing. The principles can be applied, I believe, but if you have any other questions, make sure that you run it by your lawyer. And I'm just going to say the same thing to all of you.
So page 1 here, we've got 5 different things that this packet includes. The first thing is, how do you do a business name search? Because you need to pick a name that someone else isn't already using. Number 2, you then need to file a certificate of organization with your local state or area. And by the way, this certificate is an official state document. So this means the state knows who's registered, who's doing what kind of business. However, the next one, number 3, is what's called an operating agreement, and this is an internal document, which means no one's ever going to make you have one of these, and it's a 30-page document in general, and so as a result, most people actually don't have one or don't go through the effort. We're going to save some lives today by giving you a really good operating agreement that really addresses whose role does what, who's got what percentage of ownership, and most importantly, what do you do in a worst-case scenario? And that's really, really important. And then the 4th thing in this document is, how do you fetch your federal tax ID number? That's a social security number for your business. You and your partner are giving birth to something. It's a little less messy than the human birth process, but it also gets its own social security number. It's called an EIN, an employee identification number, or a tax ID number, your TIN number. So how do you get one of those? Because you're going to need your articles of organization and your tax ID number for number 5 to set up a what? A bank account. And friends, going through those 5 steps right there, that's when you become legitimate. You become actually official, and you went from an idea that you shared with someone on Facebook, and now the 2 of you are registered on a state website that says, We in business together.
Okay, so turn the page over, and we're going to just kind of jump in, and we're starting with LLC formation. So first, you're going to want to find if your company is available. Now, you may not think it, but M&M or what was it, K&K, right? K&K Real Estate, M&M Real Estate, whatever it wants to be. It may not be available, right? So before you go off and create all the operating agreements and get things moving forward, you want to make sure that you search it. And right here you can see, if you go on to secure.utah.gov/BES, you'll be able to search and see if that name is available.
And your state will have that own process for each of their own individual states. I want to bring this up for a moment. In real estate, I don't care about branding and naming. I don't. I've got LLCs that are listed K&W 11062. And it's code for when we started it and how many properties we started with. And I'm actually getting useful data. But some of you in April might be coming out to our self-made event where Grant Thompson and I got together, and we're going to be teaching YouTube to people from all over the world. The tickets are selling like crazy. People want to come and be at this event because they want to get a chance to learn from, one, an expert YouTuber from the top down, in hindsight, all the things he would have done different to get where he's at, and then partnered up with me because I've got a tiny little YouTube site that is actually financially very robust and is creating massive value. And so we put our two systems together. When we set that up, we cared very much about what the name is. And I'm just going to drop this on you because it's curious. If you look up the LLC that it's registered under, I think it's Self-Made Mentor. And that is not the official name that we're using anywhere. So we're doing what's called a DBA, a doing business as. So you can have a less sexy LLC name, and then you can create the sexier doing business as version that it isn't as regulated as long as you're not infringing on people's
trademarks or copyrights.
Their trademarks and copyrights.
Yep.
So just a neat little thing that you might not get your exact name, but it doesn't mean you still can't play with it and use it, depending on how important your business entity and branding name is to what you're launching.
Okay, so then you see Certificate of Organization application here in the state of Utah. That completely online. There's the link for you. Please, nobody try to click on this with your finger because it won't take you anywhere.
Friends, we're just not there in the future.
It's just not going to happen yet.
We're not. It's not Harry Potter world. But I will also tell you that some of you have states that have not completely digitized the articles of organization. Yep. So we have provided an example in this document so that you know exactly what the manual form looks like that you can use as a template.
Okay, and then here you can see also some instructions for completing the certificate of organization right here. Name of the company, make sure you include LLC, how it is. Principal office address, you are going to need a physical address right for that, street and mailing address, which means I don't know, do they allow P.O. boxes there, do you know?
Sometimes.
Sometimes. I think it depends.
I want to bring this up with you that is more important though. If you're the one putting this together and you're the day-to-day partner, then whose address gets put here? You or your partner's?
Yours.
When your partner has money and as they're putting in, many times they're going to have the opinion that they do not want to be on the official registration documents. There's some people that are interested in simply not being as found. And they may or may not have an opinion on it. By default, I normally leave them off. And sometimes they request to be on it. The official title that will be used with the state is the registered agent. The registered agent is the same as the active member, okay? The active manager, which you're going to see.
Managing member,
So the managing member that is playing the active role is the same as the person here that is also going to be the registered agent. So often when I'm putting something together, I'll only put because I got to put my address out there, or at least my business address, and then I'm going to be the one signing. So question, do you need to have all owners of the partnership registered? No, you just have to have the main one. You're the manager, and the financial partner is the member. Her question was, thank you. Her question was, can members be registered agents? And I've set up a lot of these. I actually do not know the answer to that. All I do know is that I do recommend that the managing member be the person that is the registered agent. Very great. I'm recommending you keep them off anyway. So, excellent. It's going to require a signature, and that's more or less what you need to basically file. It's a simple one-page document. The state says you're in business, you have an approved name, and if you go to page 4, this is an image of the exact document that, at least in the state of Utah, we had to actually file that now is all online. But we provided it here because you might have a state where you want to gather, oh, what's the description that you guys use? And so we've provided that here for you.
And again, because you are getting this digitally, you can just take this, insert your names and information, and there you go. Hey, let's bring these together. Why not? There we go. Okay.
Guys, this is the soft, emotional,
That's right.
vulnerable part of the presentation. We're talking about LLCs and
let's bring you in
operating
here,
agreements.
All right. Instructions for filling out the LLC operating agreement. It's all there. We're trying to make this as simple as possible. You're all extremely smart people. Everyone that's watching this online or later after the fact, we know that you can do this, but we just want to make it super, super simple. Just plug and play.
Now, I want to share something with you. The Articles of Organization is a requirement when setting up a business. The operating agreement is not. And I cannot stress that between the two, this is the more important document. It is so critical for you to have an operating agreement. I recently was in a partnership with someone that said, you know what, Chris, based on some things that have happened in my life, I no longer want to be in business with you. And they had some ideas of how we should split assets that I actually didn't think was very fair. Fortunately, we had an operating agreement that said, you know what? We've got a handy-dandy document that talks about all the unforeseeables. No one gets married to get divorced, and no one goes into business thinking it's going to end. But the reality is there's some really important prenup information in the business partnership that says, hey, someone might die. Like, how would you like to be in a situation where I'm in a partnership with Steve and he dies and then his wife becomes my business partner? I did not sign up to be a business partner with his wife. So this
No.
For more reasons than one.
That's right. Both sides.
But what this does is this says, oh, that wouldn't be good for Ann, that wouldn't be good for Chris. So what do you do in a situation like that? What do you do if there is a dispute that you can't work out? What do you do if there's an external lawsuit? What do you do? And right now, when I went to my lawyers, I over the years have worked with them, and they basically said, Chris, this is the most robust operating agreement that covers really any unforeseeable circumstance. And there's two ways that you can use this information, because what Stephen's going to show you here is that there's very little highlighted areas to change. One is the date.
The name.
And then if you change go over a couple more pages, then it's going to say address and members and company name.
Oh, I will say there are a couple things that aren't highlighted here. They are in brackets, though. Company name, member name, manager 1 and 2. So we forgot to highlight a couple of those.
Yeah,
anyway.
and so there's very little to change, but I do recommend there are some things in life you don't outsource. It is really important that you do not have a trust Chris and Stephen moment and that you have a trust you moment, which means read this. It deserves a good read through because you're going to look at some of it, you're going to look at most of it and probably all of it and say, that's good. But you might actually have something in there that you put a star by and say, well, when I do a partnership, that's not the default language. I actually want it to say X, Y, and Z. It's not very different than me sitting down, and right now I'm looking at starting a charitable foundation. And as I'm sitting down and getting advice on how to do this, one of the questions that was asked is, how do you want this to fall to your children in the future? How much money do you want your children to be able to get from it? And I said, well, nothing. And he looked at me, he's like, nothing? He's like, yeah, I don't want to ruin my children. The money can be there for college, education. I will support entrepreneurship. I'll support a down payment on a house. Outside of that, I'm really interested in my children developing skills and abilities where they can learn these things. And then if I have a child, I do have a child that has some handicaps, and I would absolutely take certain things into account. Now, that's just me personally, and you personally might go through this and say, there's a couple things I would do different. It's really important for you to know that before you actually execute the document, because you have to get agreement from both parties before it really gets signed. And so this is one of those documents that it is good for you to become familiar with. But we're not going to go through it today. This is homework assignment for you because pretty much it's standard legalese for the fact that life happens, and when stuff hits the fan and things go different than planned, what do? And you want to have all of that decided ahead of time so you can enforce a contract instead of having nothing and saying, crap, there are no guidelines, what do we do? And then you might be falling prey to wild emotions or whatever the circumstance might be. So no one likes to spend really time and effort thinking about a worst case scenario. You have a responsibility to do that. So please do that.
Yeah, a lot of this as you go through it is just definitions. And like Chris said, we're not going to necessarily go through every single thing here and read it out. This is your homework. Go home, take a look at it, read through it. It's all pretty self-explanatory, although very legal in nature. You all will be able to understand it. But if you look through, it talks about different things, what the agreement is, what book value means, capital contribution, and I'm just kind of skipping around here. Depreciation, what that looks like and what it means. And so make sure that you take a look through it. It does define member here, and then you would put the specific member names in there as well.
So, and by the way, I want to tell you the two most important parts of this document that must be reviewed because they need to be filled in, and they're the most important parts. One is where Stephen just said the definition of a member is given on page 7, and also the definition of a manager in section 8.1. Do you remember earlier the document we handed out in the business plan that gave you a definition of manager and member? I recommend that you use that language or anything that you and your partner agree to that's different. That is what you want to put in here. And then the other second most important place is actually a schedule at the end of the document called Schedule 1. It's on page 20. Skip all the way to the end. Might be page 19 for you. It's page 20 for me. It's called Schedule 1. Yeah, page 19 is where you're going to have signatures. But what you're going to see on Schedule 1 is you're going to have member 1 and member 2. You're going to talk about initial capital contributions, and you're going to talk about ownership. If this was a real estate business partnership, and the person that I was going to partner with was going to put up $45,000 for doing a deal, then we would say, we would put their name as a member, initial contribution, $45,000, membership interest, 50%. My name would go underneath, and it's not going to show a capital contribution, but it's still going to show 50%, because early in the document, section 8.1 defined the role of a manager doing the day-to-day, doing X and Y, doing Z. Mine is a sweat equity play of I work in the business, you financially contribute to the business, and that's why we're going to be set up that way as partners. And Vaughn is right on the other page, on page 19, it does leave room for a signature of the managers. And it says manager 1 at the top and manager 2, and then below member 1 and member 2. If there's only one manager, I'm the manager. Who's the manager 2 for? A spouse. Who's member 2? Oh, a spouse. Okay, and your spouse may or may not be involved because there's already going to be other information in here that says, by the way, this person owns this interest. If they die, it does fall to their family. How do you want that to happen? And in my business, as it said, if it's a really big business, first of all, I do what's called a very special insurance policy. Who knows what it's called? It's a special type of insurance to buy out the death of a member's interest. It's called a key man agreement. And what it is for example, in one of my businesses, Steve Earle and I, we each have a multi-million-dollar policy on each other. And we have an agreement, and it's in this document, that if he dies, I don't want to become business partners with his wife, but we know what his ownership is. And so what will happen is the insurance policy will get cashed out to his wife in exchange for fair market value of a portion of the business. And then she still may have ownership left over after, depending on how much it is, but she will be a passive member that doesn't have voting rights. Okay? That's what you do when your business becomes something, and it has significant value, and you start taking some of these things more seriously. Otherwise, it just says that the spouse remains and keeps the ownership, but is not a voting right member.
Do you use a separate LLC for each and then have a grandfather, parent LLC for the babies?
Okay.
So the question is do you have an LLC for each property that you do? Is that what you're asking, for each property that you do? And then do you have a grandfather or overarching LLC for all those? And the answer to that is it really depends upon your risk tolerance level. Some people will have several properties in an LLC. Some people do only do one property in an LLC. And you just have to understand that an LLC is there for protection. That's why it's called a limited liability company. It's a level of protection that takes away some of that liability from your personal life. And so you just need to determine what your risk tolerance is.
And I will tell you that we did hand out a document called Piercing the Corporate Veil. This is, we're not going to go through this document, but what it does is it basically says, how secure is an LLC? Because what it does is it creates a veil of protection between you and your personal life. So if someone has a problem with your business, does it mean they can sue you personally? And what does it take for someone to be able to pierce through that corporate veil? So this is something that is designed for protection, and it's also there for clarity for the partners and how they do business and having an understanding of how money flows, who gets what percentage of ownership and splits. It's a formal document for really a number of different purposes. For me, my personal risk tolerance is I'll usually put up to $1 million worth of real estate in a single entity or 5 homes. And that's the risk tolerance that I have with me and one of my partners on what we have. If I am ever, however, listen carefully, an LLC, your ability to pierce the corporate veil does come down to how well you apply your niche. On the Articles of Organization, it says, what's the purpose of the business? And if you were to say, to do everything and anything under the sun, you would be creating massive risk for yourself, because then it would be argued that other businesses, you can be doing a lot of business in an entity that doesn't have a specific niche. But if the niche is to buy, sell, hold, and transact real estate, then it has a very specific purpose, and it's very difficult to pierce that corporate veil. Someone that wants to attack me for something that happened in one of my other businesses, they're not going to be able to get to this business. This is a real estate business that's fully unrelated. And so the reason why I bring that up is because I want you to have a separate LLC for your different business ventures and absolutely for your different partnerships. Do not mix and mingle. So you, on the one hand, don't get LLC happy. Because by the way, an LLC at the end of the year needs you to file taxes for it the way you do. And many financial professionals out there are going to charge you $300 to $500 for preparing the tax statement for your LLC. And if you're LLC happy to an unnecessary level because you're trying to avoid risk, well, you've created a different risk. You have 20 entities, and now you have to pay, several $1,000s, maybe $10,000 or $20,000 a year. And it's like, oh my gosh, how did your company go in flames? Well, we couldn't afford to do the taxes on them, right? So it's all relative, and make sure that different ventures do have different entities. And then like Stephen said, it's the risk tolerance of how much you operate through one business, through one entity. Great question.
Okay. So we're kind of at the end here. We're talking about best practices now. And as we talk about best practices, again, we won't go through everything here. Chris, what are one of the biggest things that stands out in your mind in terms of best practices when moving forward and setting up LLCs?
This is a perfect segue, Stephen. I want you to keep this document on tap and then also be looking at the playbook, because what we want to do right now is we want to talk about, if you now have your LLC set up, how do you really govern it? And what are the practices and best practices so that you can know, hey, I'm actually following a minimum guideline for doing business responsibly. Who thinks that would be really important? When partners are involved, it's really important. And by the way, if you tend to be a lazy individual that knows that you cut corners, maybe you need a partner to make sure that you really are always above board. It's amazing how good intentions can sometimes head south accidentally. And so I'm in different partnerships with people for different reasons. I remember one of the reasons why I went into business partnership with Steve Earle for one of my real estate companies. Steve is a hardcore, by-the-book individual that keeps it ideal, keeps it clean, keeps it fair, and he follows everything by the numbers, and he just doesn't bend. And so that allowed me to use my expertise for doing what I was doing in business, and then ultimately all operations fell under him. And operations is something that I don't always enjoy in business. That made him an ideal partner. And so I brought him on, even though I didn't need to. It took me 6 months to actually nearly coerce him to come and join the team. Sat down on 3 occasions because I told him, I want to focus on this. I don't want to do that. You're good at this. Let's partner up. And so we partnered to create strength. So this question of best practices and really how do you manage this relationship, as we talk about that, just know this. What you're holding in your hand is now your ability to set up as many LLCs as you want. We've given you all the information that you possibly need on it. And if you're a member of our community on the real estate side, any questions, ongoing help that you possibly need ever in setting those up, we're here for you, and we'll help provide that information for you. Okay, best practices. This one's a shocker. What is it? Man, be honest. You know, there's this Christian golden rule that says, treat others the way you want to be treated. And I want to invite you to look at a partnership as a marriage. It's different, and you got different activities than you do in your marriage, but there's a level of respect of, hey, we're not always together, we're not always doing things the same way, we're dividing and conquering, you do this and I do that. And the question is, can you stay honest and upfront as you're conducting business with this individual? And that's just a really important reminder. This room is filled with really good, honest people. And I think all of us probably consider ourselves honest individuals. When someone else is in partnership with you, you need to understand that they have a different perception of the world than you do. And they're going to argue that their perception is more right than yours, just like you want to argue that your perception is more right than theirs. So how many of you, raise your hand if you're married. Got a lot of married people in this room. If you're married, how many of you go out of your way to appease your spouse, negotiate, get on the same page and do things, and sometimes take one for the team so that you can have a good relationship? You guys ever done that before? A business partnership is very much the same way, and it's something that needs to be built on honesty and something that's built on trust. Things are going to happen in business that don't go well. Today something happens that's not good. If you have a partner, what might be a good phone call to make today? What might you want to let your partner know? Keep your partner informed. There's some little stuff that is just like, hey, I get to manage this, I get to manage that, but you know, once the business has these really high peak successes, what do you normally do? Celebrate. Guess what happens? I just launched a video on YouTube today that had a record-breaking release out the gate. And the person that does all my production texted me, Chris, check out what happened today. It's easy to share the good news, but it's also important to make sure that you're staying current on the reality of what's happening in a relationship. If you push a lot of that to the side or procrastinate that the way some people will, there's a price to pay for that later. And it's called it's that moment in the conversation when you're talking and they say, when did you find out about this? 9 months ago. What happens to their trust in that moment? Yeah. So, best practice is be honest, but one that's just as important. Become an amazing communicator. Communicate well. This idea of reporting on monthly or a quarterly basis and having these phone calls and having these meetings, if you'll do that responsibly and communicate well, then you're set up for a good partnership. Stephen and I, we're business partners right now. And as we're going out and doing business, we have agreements on what we return and report on and how we communicate and share and flow information. And Stephen, if you ever don't flow information that I thought would be useful, what might I end up saying?
Hey, Stephen, you didn't give me information that was useful.
Yeah. Can you do that next time?
That's right. Will you do that next time?
And by the way, sometimes I forget to give Stephen information until like the moment before. And how do you feel about that?
Chris, give me that information sooner.
Awesome. High five.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. So no one's going to be perfect. You're going to make mistakes, but make a decision to be really good communicators with each other. And you don't have to be perfect. Just try.
Yeah. What else? What could be some best practices as you're looking at partnering? What do you think that you could do? Maybe what's something that maybe is actually, let's do this. What is the one thing that you feel like would be the hardest thing for you to do in a business? In a partnership, what is the one thing that would be hardest for you? Yeah.
Setting clear expectations.
Oh, okay. That's a really good one. Setting clear expectations is what he said. And I'm going to recommend that as you think of these things that are hard for you, that you set time aside as you're building your business to do those things first. It's really easy for us to do the things that come easy to us, especially in partnerships, right? If you're the organizational individual and you love to organize, it'll be really easy for you to organize. But if you haven't gotten into the habit of open communication and that's harder for you, my recommendation would be openly communicate first and then organize, right?
Excellent. What else have you found that might be difficult or what you've learned from past partnerships or business arrangements when things didn't go as well as you wanted? Okay.
Appreciate and respect differences. That's a good one.
Now, what I love about that one is that it is really easy to, how many of you perceive the world and just wish people were more like you? I did not get a lot of honesty from this amazing group of people. Come on now. This is very natural. We want to project our truths and our ideals on other individuals. We want to project our beliefs on other individuals, and sometimes we view differences as a threat. But the reality is that the differences are why you're in business with them, because a difference can very much be a strength. So appreciating and respecting differences. Love that. By the way, if you want to help take care of your partnerships, one of the ways to take care of people as being a good communicator is to remind them of the value that they're creating. So not just to appreciate the differences, but I would just say appreciation. As human beings, we often do a really horrible job celebrating even small moments of success and keeping that, there's a lot to communicate about when you guys are taking care of each other, and so appreciate each other. What else lessons have you learned from business practices?
Take personal responsibility when things go wrong. Be accountable. Absolutely. Yeah, I think oftentimes in business or in life in general, it can be easy to look at a situation and to point the finger. It's always easy to point the finger and to find the fault and to find the blame in somebody else. I trust me, I know. I do it all the time. It's always my wife's fault. No, I'm just kidding. Sorry, sweetheart. No. But it is easy to see that other person's action in that thing, and oftentimes we hide behind that blame game because we're unwilling to say, I had a part in this. I did something here, and what was that? And if you are willing to take accountability, to take responsibility in a partnership, it will make that partnership sing, and truly sing so much better.
And I want to share personal experience I've had with this. How many of you have ever been accused of something and you didn't like the way you were being accused?
Oh, yeah.
How many of you ever had someone point the finger and accuse you of something that you've done wrong?
Yep.
Okay. How many of you responded with resistance and responded with defensiveness or even attacking? Okay. If you do that in marriage, what happens?
It doesn't last very long.
Yeah. What happens? You might sleep on the couch,
Yeah.
right? Your propinquity relocates. I'm trying.
Good work. That was a try.
And now, by the way, what happens if you do the same thing in a business partnership when you get into a battle of right and wrong? Because, by the way, it's normally a battle of right and wrong. I'm right, you're wrong, I'm right. And I just want to share with you something that I've found hugely beneficial for me. I don't always remember it, but it's something that's really important. Anytime I've ever been accused and my ego wants to inflame and say, it's not me, it must be you, or you're seeing it the wrong way, one of the most liberating experiences of my life is to actually look at what they're saying, and instead of being defensive, I do the opposite. Where is it truth? Yeah. Is there the tiniest chance that there's even a small amount of truth in what they're saying? So recently I had an individual say, Chris, you're a liar, a cheater, you're dishonest, you're a manipulator, I can't remember the rest. It was many things. I got this one individual accused me of all these things. And I read it, and then I thought about it, and I looked at each one of them. I'm like, you're a cheater. I'm like, I've definitely cheated in life. I won't ask you guys if you have, but I know I have. Well, you're a liar. That is true. I have not figured out how to be honest all the time. I don't even know sometimes when I'm not even being honest with myself. Chris, you're a manipulator. Oh, totally. I'm totally manipulating all sorts of things, probably sometimes like the good kind and probably also sometimes the bad kind. And even though I didn't like the exercise of finding those things in me, the reality is that if I was able to surrender and see them in me, then what it did is it made a couple of things happen. First of all, it allows me to validate the individual that has a concern. They're seeing something, and I really want to know, does this hit me? And by the way, if you want to know if there's any truth to it, it stings. So how many of you ever accused you of something and you didn't like the way you felt inside? I hate to say it, friends, but in that instance, they were right and you were wrong. Because if it hurts, then there's something to look at. And even if it's a little bit, is there value in looking at it? And by the way, if you want to learn how to have a good partnership with anyone on the planet, is it worth looking at it? The very basic best practices of forgiveness and saying sorry and please and thank you, these basic things that mom and dad tried to teach you as a kid growing up, hopefully, these are the best business practices because your partner is going to say, hey, They might say it in a nice way, they may not. There's a blind spot that you have. There's something you're doing wrong. And I want to invite you to look at it and search the truth of it. Because if you do, one, they will feel validated, but then there's something else really cool that happens when you can see it in yourself. What happens then?
You can change it.
You can change it. It's actually empowering to admit it. It's empowering to see it. I remember 10 years ago being in a workshop, and this was a risky forum. This was a very controversial group of individuals. I didn't really find out how controversial it was till I finished the training, and they used a lot of shame and guilt-based tactics. And at one point, it was day 2 of this event, and the lights were real low, and they put me in front of a group of individuals, and it was called a feedback circle. And the purpose of this exercise was for all of these people that I didn't know, except that I had met the day before, they didn't know me, to look at me, and just by looking at me and feeling me, to tell me all the things wrong. And I had people say, you're a steamroller that wants to get his way, and people are insignificant, they're obstacles or objects. You don't often care about people, you certainly don't love people, you're greedy, you're only in it for you. And in that moment, it was this incredible, excruciating pain that I didn't want to admit any truth to. But the more I sat with it, I realized from this training that the only reason why it hurt is because there's some of that that's in me. It's not my identity, but it is a reflection of my thinking and my choices. And it was this beautiful opportunity for me to look at that and change. And you know what? Recently, I had an employee that was caught doing drugs. I needed to fire him, and on their exit interview statement, they said, Chris Crone is a douchebag.
No. He said, we said, why are you quitting? And on the forum, he wrote, because of the douchebaggery that is Chris Crone. I've never heard that word before, but I loved it. It was fantastic.
I don't even know how they're doing the sign language on that one.
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't want to know how to translate douchebag. But what I will tell you is that the first reaction was just to smile, and I said, I sure am. You're a jerk. It's like, yeah, I've totally done that one before too. That doesn't excuse bad behavior.
Right.
But the moment you can find truth in and accept it, acceptance then leads to change. And I'm really grateful for that. So I want to invite you, as you're doing partnerships and working with people, that there is benefit to all feedback. If someone has some really nasty feedback, by the way, and it's just going over your head and you're not feeling it, then what could you be learning about you? Maybe I'm not that. And I wonder if the person in front of me needs help or service or love. I mean, if they think these thoughts, maybe they're not having a good day.
Or maybe, I used to walk around and I often had a scowl on my face, and people would come up to me and be like, Stephen, are you okay?
Serious RBF.
Right? And
I just learned that one.
I don't know what that is. Anyway, I was okay. I was totally fine, but their perception was that I wasn't. And so, although they were thinking that there was something wrong, that learning experience for me was, you know what? I can do something to even affect their perception possibly. Even though I'm fine and I'm making good choices for me, it might be worth it for me to smile a little bit more as I'm going around, right?
That's very insightful. I really appreciate that. That's
absolutely.
Beautiful. So, friends, what we're really doing here is we're saying that when you start a business, you also come under a stewardship and a responsibility that is different than when you're just an employee working for somebody else. What is your stewardship as an employee?
Do the job.
It's to show up and do your best to do the job that you were hired to do so that you don't rip off your employer. But when you become in business for yourself, what happens to the size of the stewardship?
Grows.
It grows and expands. So, someone might have concerns or problems, and you can't say, hey, I'm going to refer you to the 1-800-rejection hotline, and you can deal with that on your own. It's like, actually, this is my company. I have a responsibility. Someone's got to take accountability and meet with the people and help them. And this is still something I'm learning a lot about in business, which is how do you take care of individuals, and that there is a greater stewardship. So there can be greater gains that can come to you from the information. There can be greater freedom that comes to you from this information. But with great power comes great responsibility. Okay, Spider-Man?
This is just one other thing. This has been hard for me to acknowledge that things change and that my personal integrity doesn't mean I'm going to keep my word under all circumstances. It is when things change, communicate change, clean it up, get mutual agreement that things have changed, and work out a new agreement.
Absolutely.
That's a brand new piece for me, and it has set me free from judging other people, and also from feeling that I'm a bad person if I don't keep something in place that no longer serves anybody.
Yeah. These documents aren't static. I love what you said there. These documents are not static. They are flexible and changeable.
And they're meant to be updated
And
with
they're
time.
meant to be updated. And this is why you also meet with your partners on a regular basis and communicate openly. Absolutely. Thank you, Felicia. So I think where we're going to go with it now, we're pretty much wrapping up. Have we gone into that? No, we haven't yet.
Yes.
Yeah, good idea.
Okay, so the final thing that we want to share right now is we want to talk about what does it look like? These are best practices, but what does it look like for you to be a responsible partner? Because it's one thing, you know, you guys are going to have that moment of celebration. I mean, imagine right now, you gave birth to your business, you found the perfect partner, you sent them the business plan, they said yes, and all of a sudden it's time to get business going. And is there going to be a moment of celebration?
Yeah.
I got a picture on my phone from me standing in my basement with Grant Thompson. He's known as the king of YouTube, or the king of random, and he's one of the top 100 YouTubers. And he's in my basement, and we're holding up a piece of paper that it's chocked full of notes. And it's a memory of he and I putting our heads together in the creation room to launch something. And in that moment, we hadn't even set up the LLC yet. What we did is we launched a great dream and vision of how we could serve people together. And it was a really meaningful moment. It was a moment to celebrate. But now there's some work that needs to happen, because it's not about getting in a partnership. That's just the first step. Now it's to nurture, take care of, and grow the partnership that we have been talking about. And let's just go through the specifics. I'm going to have Stephen list these out. We're going to write these out on the board. Just talk about each one of them and make sure that there is some understanding of what we're doing here. And the very first one here is to set up your bank account.
Set up and fund. Yep.
Okay, so real quick, let's talk about this.
It doesn't just kind of come, right? Yeah,
so let's imagine that I have approached Alex. Alex has some funds. She read my business plan. She says, right now, conceptually, it looks like we want to do this. What's the next step? They're going to ask that question. What's the next step? And that's always the indicator that it's time to go to this list. This is the finalization of launching the business. And so I say, well, Alex, the first thing we need to do is we picked our business name. We have our stamped articles of organization from the county, and we also have our tax ID number. And with those two documents, we can go to a bank. Remember, this first house needs $40,000, so I need you to come with $40,000, meet me at the bank. We're going to set up the bank account. I'll bring the documents, and we'll sit down in chairs side by side. We'll talk to the happy banker. We're going to have them set up our business bank account, decide that we both get access to the business bank account so that we can review it online together, and we're going to fund it so that next month we can go and buy a property. So now you have the ability to do that. And by the way, it's one thing to set up an LLC, but when you actually go to the bank and set up the bank account, that's a very real moment. Okay, all those phrases, take it to the bank. When the money's in the bank, this just got real. Does this make sense? Now, technically in real estate, Alex is actually going to keep the money in her bank. The only money that's going to be transferred over is what we need for actually managing the business, which is a lot less than the down payment. But now there's this big step of coming together, and there's this trust. Because Alex is putting the money in the account for me to pay mortgage with, find a tenant, collect cash flow in, create reporting with. We both have access to this bank account, and now we're in business together. So the first one is to set up the bank account.
Yeah, number two is involve coaches only to solidify deals. So this is specific here to the real estate.
So one of the things that's really unique about what we're doing with Real Wealth in this partnership, like Vaughn is now familiar with, is that for any of you that join our team, and because there might be a handful of you here that actually say, you know what? I have wanted to do real estate, and if you guys are telling me that you have a system where I can use your thousands of homes of credibility, and that you guys will be my partners without taking any ownership, but you'll walk me through it and help me, and I'll go find the investors, and you guys will walk me through this, and that we'll do this together, that would mean that you could then use the official business plan, find these people, And then we're going to have you talk to a member of our staff, Rodney Beecham, to help answer your potential partner's questions. So now they're getting on the same page and they're like, all right, we're ready to go. And then it's like, great, we've taught you. Go set up the LLC. Now it's time to set up the bank account. You talk to Rodney as a coach to help solidify things. The business has been finalized. Vaughn's done it once. Vaughn now has a goal of doing it 12 more times. And I don't know whether Vaughn's going to do 3 or 30. But I do know that now that Vaughn's done it once, his likelihood of reoccurring success is way higher. Because, by the way, if we were to take a look at how hard it is to get the first partner, that's why in the past I haven't seen people do it very often. But with our business plan and our track record, that all changes starting when? That change is starting when?
Now.
That change is starting right now. So all of a sudden, you've got Stephen and I in your back pocket making this whole thing happen. We have our Done For You company also in your back pocket helping make all of this happen. We're working together as a team. And now that Vaughn gets one partnership, he's going to learn a whole lot more. How much harder is it going to be to get a second partner?
A lot easier.
Do you think it'll be easier?
Yep.
Why? Because Vaughn's going to say things like, well, my last business partner that I'm helping do this with, my first business partner that I'm helping do this with, he has a track record. And a year from now, if Vaughn has 5 or 6 properties, there's no reason why Vaughn can't have 600. I just want to be completely clear that when you learn to transact real estate with no money and no credit, and you learn how easy it is, and it only gets easy everyone after, there is no stopping. You can create a level of wealth to support whatever your why is, whatever your dream is, whatever your goal, whatever your philanthropy. You'll be able to do that. And friends, we've just filled in the biggest gap there's ever been in the game of real estate. And Stephen and I, we want to know who to play with because this community just went to a whole new level. We're ready to make this happen. So you need coaches and you need team to get the help.
Yep. Number 3, manage the loan process. Now, this is a big one. Anyone ever gotten a loan before? You know it can be a little hard sometimes. It can be difficult, right? There are some hoops to jump through. They only ask you for your firstborn and, vial of blood and a few other things.
They want to know the color of your panties.
Huh?
Banks ask weird things. They ain't going to ask uncomfortable questions. Stephen, tell us.
I have no idea where that
know.
came from.
What are the color of your
Is my face red?
Yeah.
That's not the color of my underwear. All right.
So you like black?
Okay. Wow. Yeah. That went somewhere real fast.
Guys,
like there was no tiptoeing on that one. I just dove.
I just get one try
You just dove right
in an
in.
entire day to see if I can throw his groove off one time.
It happens rarely, but
I've already made a note.
So
for
the
our
banks are
going to
wanna know
remove
interesting
that
things about
segment.
you.
yeah, seriously, can you
Our
mark that
editors
time?
will remove that segment.
Thank
for
you.
Post-production, just so you know.
Why would you remove that?
Post-production removal, note. And redo.
All right.
No, but the loan process, it is one that you're going to have to manage. Thank you, yes. I am bright red right now. But the loan process is one that you're going to have to manage. And can the loan process take longer than expected? Yes. And if the loan process is taking 45 or 60 days rather than 30 days, could your partner, who's, by the way, a passive partner, start to get a little antsy? And if you're not communicating openly with that partner, if you're not managing that loan process, is it possible that could backfire a little bit on you? Could your partner even say, you know what, it's taking way too long, I'm scared, forget it, I'm done, I don't want to do this anymore? Could your partner do that?
Because guys, they have a learning curve on doing their first property, just like you have a learning curve on doing your first partner. They're going to have a learning curve learning about costs, investment lending, charges different point ratios and interest rates than a primary residence. There's just education and learning that you do, which is why we educate you, help you, train you, help you learn how to get through that, and supply a team that can assist with that. But specific to this business, there's then the loan process.
Yep. Next one is reporting. And this is reporting on an as-needed. I'm actually going to mish two together here. Reporting on an as-needed basis as well as your set reporting schedule, so quarterly reporting.
Now, by the way, reporting, is that more important in the beginning or at the end? Communication, it's always important, and communication is most important to establish those routines when?
The very beginning.
In the very beginning. These people want to feel taken care of.
Okay. Next one is accounting.
Okay, let me talk about this. Every business needs accounting. True or false?
True.
Okay, every business has incomes and expenses. True or false?
True.
Okay, so I want you to understand that with the accounting, right now, it doesn't have to cost a lot of money. There's different services out there that will manage that for you. You could get in and do it yourself. It's up to you, but you're going to build confidence with your partner if you have professional accounting. I have a P&L right now for last month on all of my different businesses. I know what time of day it is, and that information is useful in understanding the business. So it's important. It's something that you set up. If you are a visionary, don't neurose on this one. Just get some help, okay, Alex? Just breathe. Take a breath, you breathe, and you just... and these people...
Well, yeah, seriously.
And when your
Where are
business is small in the beginning, it doesn't cost a lot of money to have someone else coming in that you send all this stuff to that does that for you, and it's something that you can grow into.
Okay. The last and final one here is when to refinance, sell, or reinvest.
Refinance, sell, and reinvest. So specific to real estate specifically is we're buying an asset and we want to take advantage of what's called compound interest. If we're getting 10 to 20% each year on our properties, then after 5 years, those returns start diminishing. And so before we get a diminished return, we're always looking for, hey, partner, it's been 3 years. We're able to refinance all of the money out of this property, still keep the property with good equity, rent it out, but we can put it into a new home. This house will make a smaller cash flow, but it will still make a cash flow and it's still growing, and then we can get fresh, big returns on this new one, and now we can have 2 properties working for us. That would be either a refinance, or we're gonna sell this home, it's actually reached its end of its cycle in the market, and it would be better to sell it and go buy 2 homes or 3 homes or 1 home in a different, more profitable market. And so what we're doing is we're basically juggling the assets from lower yields to higher yields. Now, when you learn about compound interest and what we do in real estate, and by the way, I should actually share this real quick for those of you that don't know. The very first deal I did with my partner, he put in $20,000, and 6 months later, he got a $10,000 check plus his original investment returned. Now, everyone likes to know what an annual ROI is, right? We did this over 6 months, so we had to double it to figure out what the annual return is. If we made $10,000 in 6 months, then over a year, he would have made what? 20. If he put 20 in and in a year got his 20 back plus 20,000 of gains, what percentage of a return is that?
100%.
That right there, which one is it, 100 or 200? Is it 100 or 200? My total gain is 200%, but my net is 100% that I'm actually going to keep on that. I have my, good job, Dad. And so I've got my 20,000 back, but I made 20,000. Now I want to ask you a question. What was my ROI as the partner that didn't put money in? How many think that it might be a little hard to mathematically calculate? I once tried. I said, okay, based on my cash-on-cash ROI, it's an infinite return. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm rich and have infinite money. I got $10,000. So I can have an infinite return with $10,000. I can have an infinite return with $10. I can have an infinite return in $10 billion. So the return actually doesn't tell me a whole lot. So then I said, well, how much time did I put into the deal? Now, I had a team, just like you will have a team, that was doing the work, doing the repairs, and doing the selling. I didn't do it. My team did it. I put in a total of 2 hours. So let's just calculate my dollar per hour if we can't get a return. How much is that an hour? That's $5,000 an hour. On my deals that I partner with, I average between $5,000 and $20,000 of income per hour that I work. I like real estate. I'm just saying it's a really good shortcut to freedom. And there was a version of Chris Crone where it was about the money and freedom, and there's a version of Chris Crone today that trusts my ability to produce my personal needs, and now it's how is this a vehicle for doing a greater good, and what is that greater good, and what does that look like? And I shared with you that what my redefinition is, the most important thing you can do is be connected to a why that moves your heart and soul so much that it takes your breath away. Because by the way, I'm so committed to this number that scares me of how much philanthropy that I want to do, that it is motivating all sorts of different actions and thoughts that I probably would not be having otherwise. In fact, I can guarantee I wouldn't be having otherwise, because I'm solving problems and creating solutions where I've never needed to before, okay? I will simply tell you that is one of the things that I love about real estate is that there's a reason why it creates more American millionaires than anything else, bar none. And whether you have a deep passion for real estate or if you're like Tracy Roberts, who has a deep passion for his team that does all that for him, the reality is, my personal belief is that every American should have real estate in their solution portfolio, without fail. And if you say, well, someday, Chris, when I have some success and some money, I will, then I would say, listen up what you learned today. It's not a function of your resources, like Tracy said. It's a function of your resourcefulness. Today's training, partnering, is all about resourcefulness. How many of you are seeing that? It's all about how resourceful you are. So, friends, when you've gone through these in our specific business game plan, when you've done this, you're now officially in business. You're rocking and rolling, and your business is real. It is growing. It is happening. It's as real as Vaughn's and buying their first property just right around the corner here, having plans for more, getting more investors. And Vaughn now is at a point in age in his life where he, with this information, can command a retirement and an income that may very well, in fact, far exceed anything he's been able to generate in his working life. And for that, I'm really excited for him. It's not for everybody, but Vaughn, by the way, was our guinea pig, and he did it. It's a big deal. And so right now, Stephen and I, we're on a crusade. And the crusade is, we've done it with Vaughn. Who else can we do it with? Who really wants to, visionaries, hands down. You even got the oracle's hands up. I just want to share that in putting this together, in a moment we're going to do some big picture Q&A, because what we've been covering is how do you find investors, how do you present the information and give yourself the best chance of getting yourself a launch into this, how do you take care of people, how do you finalize those partnerships so that you can get off to the races and doing business. And before Stephen and I move towards our conclusion and talking about where do you go from here, what do you do with this information, and our challenge is for you to use this, and please don't let it to collect the dust as information. I'm learning more and more the older I get that it doesn't matter what I know. It matters what I execute. I can't believe how much information I know that I don't take action on. What's the purpose of having it? It's like my mental house can be actually filled with storehouses of knowledge and information, and some of it is only useful if it is used, and a lot of it if it's unused. And so this is our first time to actually take some information that it has a secret shelf, like a mystical magic shelf in our personal mental warehouse of like the secret sauce of what actually gets real traction in the real world. And this is our first time sharing it out the door to say, let's make this happen. So before we move on to that, I want to take an opportunity to open this up to questions across the board. How do I partner? Where have we missed gaps? Where can we fill in the blanks? And then how can we help you, especially if you have specific scenarios with your business? What do you need to know that will actually cause you to implement the information that we've been sharing with you today? Let's pass the microphone
let's get the
here.
mic over here.
Okay, so I'm in a position where I have no money. Yay.
Everyone give it up for Alex. That's okay. You got good things going for you with the knowledge you just learned today.
But I did realize that I could have a partner in my mom because we had tried to buy the property next door. It didn't end up going down, but as a result of that, she has an okayed loan available up to $90,000 that's already available to her right now. So I'm like, okay, awesome. I can take the LLC I have, make a couple changes to make it towards real estate, right, with what I've been given today, and then take that business plan to my mom, have her partner with me. But then what? Like, how do I get myself access to that team you were talking about to help me with that learning curve of finding the properties in my area? I would love to be the manager of it. I want to design it. You know, I have a couple guys that I've already talked to who can do the work. I don't know how any of that goes down, like their fees or anything, or where do I go from here?
This is important because what we are going to do, Alex, is we are going to talk about, and I just want to know out of curiosity, how many of you would want to know how to actually claim ownership of this precise business plan and actually use it as a means for creating wealth? Okay, before we conclude this, we'll make sure that you have total clarity on how to do that.
Okay.
What I really want to do right now is for anyone that has other ideas, other businesses, or even their own real estate, and they're wanting to know, how do I put that into practice? Let's cover that first, because if you can know how to apply these principles, then you're going to get where you need to go.
Okay, so the one business that there's one big industry is like the food industry, like restaurants and things, that requires a lot of employees and a lot of other people. So how would you tackle something like that where you've got to hire managers and waiters and chefs and cooks and all of those kind of people?
Yeah, I mean, so are you saying that you have an idea to start a restaurant of some sort? Okay, so you want to start a restaurant. Before you get down the road of hiring all those individuals, by the way, you can work with agencies that can help you to fill and to hire if you aren't expert at that. So like I said before, if you want something done right, don't do it all yourself. Figure out where your expertise is and then focus in on that expertise. And along the way, start talking and bringing people into your circle that have the other pieces of the puzzle. You're going to need funding. I mean, obviously, that's one of the first things for any restaurant is you need the funding for the restaurant because you need the real estate, which, by the way, if you paid attention when Chris talked about lease options and things like that, there's an opportunity or possibility that you could even get into a building with very little to no money out of your own pocket on a lease-to-own type of scenario, right? So identify first of all exactly what you want. Once you understand what you want, then ask the question, who would be the right person for me to go to? Who will fill these gaps for me? And start having conversations. This is going to take some time, especially if you've never done this before. There's going to be a little bit of a learning curve. But that learning will never happen until you get out there and act, right?
Yeah, and I want to build on something that Stephen is saying. Recently, so I've hired Tony Robbins to be my mentor in business, and there's a lot that I'm learning from him. And one of the things that he shared was that every person, every one of you in this room, every one of you online, you're either an artist, a leader, or an entrepreneur by nature. And you want to understand what that really means. An artist is the person that actually likes to do what they're doing. So for example, someone says that I want to start a restaurant. What role would you play in the restaurant?
Mostly a manager.
Okay, so you want to actually manage the whole deal, right? Okay, a leader is the manager. It's also possible that Cannon could have said, well, I have the most amazing recipes, and I want to cook. Which of the three would he be? He's the artist. Or if Cannon says, I'm going to bring the financial partners to the table, and we're going to go big bet on this thing. I think that we can actually make this thing go down. I think we're going to make some good money and grow this thing and go really big with it. Who would he be?
Entrepreneur.
Then he'd be the entrepreneur. Who takes on the most risk? The entrepreneur takes on the most. Who takes on the least risk?
The artist.
The artist is always guaranteed to get paid. They're going to get paid for cooking. They're going to get paid for drawing. They're going to get paid for doing their trade. And often in business, the artists do a whole lot better than the person carrying all the risk. If you don't believe me, just check out professional sports. Look at the amount of money that the most successful coaches and owners make because some of these owners are losing money. Meanwhile, they're playing their all-star team millions of dollars in contracts. So in life, often the artists have the greatest level of safety. There are those that are simply born to lead, or they learn how to lead, and they love to manage, and they love to create cohesion and team. And then you've got your entrepreneur that wants to put a picture together and make it happen and launch and create something that simply hasn't existed before. Right now, if you had to put yourself into one of these three categories, which would it be? Okay, raise your hand if you are an artist. Hands up. Artists, hands up.
I'm an artist as well.
Okay, leaders, hands up. Entrepreneurs, hands up. You could be divergent, but the reality is that this room was pretty evenly split across the board. If you're an artist, I want to tell you something right now. When you look for a partner, you need a partner that can provide good what? This is very important for the artists. When artists try to be in business for themselves and by themselves, creating value in the world, this creates incredible, massive amounts of stress. And this is where their joy's at. Remember to do the things that you love. The reason why our real estate business plan for many is such a perfect genius fit is because when you come aboard, you could be any one of these three and find a home because our entire team is actually going to do the what? We're the artists. We're going to do the work, and we're also going to help manage the process. So that's an exception to the rule in business. So Cannon, one of the things that I would encourage you, just like Stephen said, is look at where you're at and then be thinking, who do you need? And ultimately, your restaurant is going to need a business plan that you can bring to an investor that has money so you can put it together. And when the money's in the bank and it's time to open the doors, then it's time to hire your employees for running the business. Make sense? Yeah. Excellent question, guys. Let's give it up for Camden.
Awesome.
Okay, other questions on anything? Let's come right over here.
I would just say that applies to real estate too.
You would say that applies to real estate too?
Yeah. You're going to find the artist in the real estate as well as the leader and the entrepreneur.
Yeah.
You know, so I think that's a great business plan for real estate.
It is a great business plan, and the artists that want to, if you're an artist and you want to do our business plan, do you know where you get stuck in working with us? You want to go to Home Depot, you want to buy drywall mud, tools, and you want to do all of the jackhammering and pounding, and you want real estate to be a job. We love you enough to tell you that you dangerous. Only because we have a professional team that does those things, because there's a lot of people that get lost in the artistry of real estate, and it can be dangerous. Artists, artist is really kind of a, right now I'm working with Carson on my team, and Carson's like, Chris, I'm an artist. He's like, just kidding, I'm now a leader. And he's switching over, and you know what? He's doing an amazing job. So by the way, you can all get better at developing the skills that you need to become very, very well-rounded.
So would you say your team is squarely in the artist category, or do you see yourself as team creators and the leaders as well?
This is a great question. I would say that what we're doing is we're playing a predominant role in the artistry of making it all happen. We have the most amazing team that facilitates, the team that trains. By the way, what we're sharing with you today, is this an art? So Stephen and I, do you know who we are today? We're artists. We're sharing our craft that has created massive value for us and a handful of people, now saying, let's actually help others whip up and make some really amazing art happen. We do provide tremendous leadership, but when someone partners with us for this particular business, we're asking them to be the entrepreneur that can start the party, and we're asking them to provide partial management. Our team's going to manage, and then you got to manage. You've got decisions to make, so there's some active management on your side. So Vaughn right now, he was the entrepreneur that helped his first partner come on board, but Vaughn is also the leader/manager that is now helping manage that relationship, and that's the predominant role that gets played over here on this side.
And I will say with this, one thing that we do extremely well, which kind of turns this on its head a little bit, is we provide the entrepreneur with a system. Most entrepreneurs are going blind, and they're just they're pioneering certain things. And one thing that we've been able to do really well is create an easier space for the entrepreneur to jump in and see some really quick success.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, other questions on partnering. How do you bring your idea to the market? Okay, we're going to take microphone right over here.
So I didn't hear it said, but I'm guessing that we always come to a potential partner with a deal in hand, correct? Or do we not have to?
Depends.
Yeah, it depends. You don't have to necessarily bring a specific deal. I'll tell you, the way that we run our company on the done for you side is we run a just-in-time inventory. So we know 90 days out how many homes we're going to be doing with the investors that we're working with and the partners that we're working with. And so if we were to give you a property right now to take to an investor who's not yet on board, chances are that specific property will be gone and taken by the time they are ready. And so really what we're doing with this business plan, and if you actually flip through the business plan, you'll see in this there are actual deals, and most of these look pretty vanilla. The numbers are all pretty much the same, right? It's a very specific type of house in a very specific type of market. It's a niche. And because of that, when you go to your partner and you hand this to them, if this is what you were going to use, then your partner would say, oh man, that looks great. I'd like to get my hands on some of those properties. Say, great. Before we do that, I want to make sure that this is viable for us. I'm going to have you talk to my coach, right? And so you go through that process.
Now, I want to give you a couple other examples that are real estate related. Let's go back to the convention center.
Yeah.
There was no point doing a business plan until I finally had locked down my lease for 10 years on the place where I knew I was going to make this happen. I had 4 months before they were going to ask for the first month's rent, because that's what you typically have in commercial when you need a renovation period. And so I took my time to start going after my SBA loan. doing the math, doing my research on event centers, put it all together, and within probably 5-6 hours, really, I had my business plan done. I presented it to my partner. He said, yes, I'm 100% in. And so I had the deal first in that scenario. Some of you here only have the partner profits, and if you, raise your hand if you're interested in real estate, by the way. Okay, if you're interested in real estate, you have to have the lease option program. The lease option program that we created is the other half of making all creative real estate worth it. And in that program, we actually show you how to do a sandwich lease. And that's where you're actually going to find someone else that has a property, avoid the bank, and you buy it as if you're the lease option tenant, and then you're actually going to lease it out to somebody else. Well, when you find that deal, it's very possible that the person says, hey, so I'm willing to give you the $30,000 of equity in this house. We need you to cover the mortgage, do X, Y, and Z, but we want you to give us $10,000 up front or $5,000 up front to make this deal happen. There's deals that require no money like the one I showed you, but there are some deals that require $2,000, $5,000, maybe $10,000. Now that's different than a $30,000 or $40,000 down payment with the bank. So I go private, skip the bank, and it's equivalent to putting like a 5 or 7% down payment as opposed to a 20. Does this make sense? Well, when I find that, same thing. I'm going to just plug that singular deal into my business plan. And if you don't even have $10,000, do you know how easy it is with this business plan to find a business partner that will do $10,000 to get in on that deal? It's not 30, it's not 40,000, it's 10 or it's $5,000. Do you know how easy that is? Guys, that's like microfunding. That's not I'm not doing a $200,000 investment. It's not a $5 million investment. It's not a $50,000 investment. It's a $10 or a $5,000 investment. There's people everywhere that know they need to diversify, and that impressive business plan, that's all they need. And that would be an example of I found the deal, I got it under contract, I put the plan together, I present it to someone, and I'm off to the races. This partner profits, if you combine it with lease option, you can do anything in the game of real estate that is in the creative land. And even though there's hundreds of strategies, Stephen and I will default 99% to just those two. So that's another way that you can use the business plan and under one circumstance not have the inventory first, and under a different circumstance already have it lined up. Does that make sense? Yes, sir. Yeah, great question. Don't you ever call me sir again. Give him a round of applause. All right. I know he's from the South. It's okay. Okay, other questions?
Is it better to start small or big when you have a dream that requires a lot?
You know, I'm going to go to the audience on this one. I'm going to call in the audience.
Let's pull the audience.
Yeah. What do you think? Is it so? Real quick, by raise of hands, is it better to start small? Raise your hands if you think it's better to start small. Okay, we got a couple people. Is it better to start big? How many of you think it's better to start big? Go big or go home. Okay. So we've got a mixed crowd here, and some of you are unsure. Let me take that from you for just a second. We've got a comment over here.
I took a manager accounting class, and the teacher started with $1,000 business. And then halfway through the lecture, he's like, guys, and then he started adding zeros and kept adding zeros. He's like, the number of zeros does not matter because the results are what you're after. And if you want to start a $7 billion business, then put the business plan together and look.
Yeah. And by the way, that's one person's advice, but how many of you want to know the real answer?
a different answer.
No, how many of you want to know the real answer? The real answer is it depends.
Yeah.
It really just, I'll tell you, there's some things you go big or go home and you're gonna bury yourself alive. And there are other things where it's a mistake to go small. And the beautiful thing about life is learning. And what I would recommend that you do with your dream is that I would sit down with someone and get specifics on what that looks like. Now, I will share with you, I know what big or go home looks like, and I'm actually going to share with you what my personal default is most of the time. I have an idea that I think is good. And then what I'll do is I'll get very married to my idea. So much that even if someone told me that it wasn't a good idea, then they're a poo-poo face because I am married to the idea that this is going to be it. Our own myopic view of the world buries us left and right all the time because the most dangerous information is what you don't know. Anytime I have an idea that I think is good, There's two things that I do. The first is I socialize it with people that I respect. And I'm going to listen to them, and I'm going to get some thoughts and feelings, and I'm trying to get ideas, not to confirm my idea. I'm trying to get ideas that I don't have. The second thing is, if it's confirmed that I have an idea that could be good in business, the second thing I'm going to do is I generally do a 30-day experiment. I want to see if I can make the deal run. If I have no experience with it, it's a 30-day experience. And this is the game I play. This is a little off topic. Can I tangent? Is this okay? This might be helpful for some of you because before you decide how big to go, this is my personal sniff test. The game is I have 30 days, and then what I do is I actually play. How many of you know what paper trading is? Paper trading is when you are trying to play the stock market with fake money. And I'm going to tell you right now that if you're not playing with real money, you'll never really know how money messes with emotion in a moment. Speaking from experience, unfortunately. I take a guess of what I think reality is. And my guess is my concept of reality. And here's what I want to know. I want to learn about me in the process, and I want to learn about the market. So let's just say that I thought in 30 days, I can sell 100 units. And these 100 units are going to make $10,000. And I think that's what I can do in 30 days. Then before I have a business plan, if I can, before I go to the market and find a financial partner, before I do any of that, I just want to sniff and test my idea. And what I do is I give myself 30 days. And at the end of 30 days, I'm going to get, in general, one of three different results. Let me give you some of the top results. Number one, I get nothing. Number two, I get 10 units. Number three, I get 50 units. And number four, I get 100 units. Now help me interpret my personal view of what I thought was a good business. If I work hard for 30 days and thought I could do 100 and got nothing, what would that tell me about me? Someone could say it means work harder. I disagree with you, Ryan. I don't think it means work harder. Oh, someone says that my product needs tweaking. I've made the mistake of thinking my product needs a tweak. I just spent 30 days giving it my all, and I got 0 results, and you think that I need a tweak? One person says work hard, another person says tweak. What's the other possibility here if I had thought this and I got that? What could it mean?
Bad idea.
I am so disconnected from what the market wants in relation to this thing, I should take a hike. I'm going to bury this idea. It looks like this. Rip. Moment of silence. Okay. I'm gonna let go of this idea personally. Now, by the way, how many of you had an idea that didn't work out at all and then you worked harder at it? By the way, when you work hard at something that doesn't work, what do you then get when you exaggerate what's broken?
Exhaustion.
You just get more. What happens if you try to tweak a bad idea?
You get a tweaked bad idea.
You get a tweaked bad idea. Okay. Let's go. Okay, I'm just saying. Okay, this is my, guys, by the way, I want to be clear. If this was the scenario, it would have been better for you if you had no idea and spent an entire month on the couch doing nothing. You would have gotten 30 days of your life and any money you spent back for this one. Now that's learning. That's cool, right? Let's do this scenario. I get 10 units. I thought I could get 100. I got 10. How do you interpret that?
Got a horrible perception.
Alex says I need tweaking. Stephen says, I probably have a really still very disconnected concept of the market.
Sometimes I'm just talking to the wrong people. Like, my idea is a very upscale market, and I'm talking to my neighbors, and they're all poor and in debt.
Yeah. We still have freedom fighters in the room, friends. We still have those that are going to say, I'm married to this. If it's my idea and I gave it 30 days and I got a 10th, I should do more on it. Can I share with you something a little bit rogue and different, perhaps? First of all, Stephen, cue up the music. Moment of silence. All right, excellent. Let me share with you what I'm looking for. I have an idea. I think it could be good. I give it my best effort for 30 days. And lo and behold, I actually produced half of what I thought I could. Give me some feedback.
Yeah, that's good.
Tweak. It's
Now
time
it's
to tweak.
Now it's time to tweak.
It's time to tweak. It's not time to kill it. Okay, it's time to freedom fight. It's time to tweak. It's time to work harder. It's time to innovate, right? Because, by the way, if you got half of what you think the idea had merit for, would that show promise?
Yeah.
What's it like when you work on ideas that are not showing promise?
Draining.
You can spend a very long time in the cycle if your thoughts say work harder or tweak. Be careful to only work harder and tweak on worthy ideas.
Well, which one does Thomas Edison fit into again?
He didn't have the internet. All right. Okay, if you thought you could produce 100 and you actually produce 100, what would that mean? You have a perception that's onto reality and you have an idea worth playing with. The only reason why I'm sharing this with you is because some of you have ideas that you think are good. And if you allow yourself to get married to your idea and spend years on it and still don't get what you want, then there's going to be some lessons to learn. And one of those lessons to learn might be you kept working harder when you should have put an arrow in its heart. And another one is you are tweaking on the wrong deal. Friends, we're highly intelligent human beings. We've got 70,000 thoughts a day. I promise you that nature abhors a vacuum. And if you kill this idea and kill this idea, if you kill your baby, this idea, if nature abhors a vacuum and you learn from this, then you are more equipped with what? A next idea that is, let me get very real with you. Can I get super raw with you? When Stephen and I started the game of real estate, we were idealists. I think in many ways we still are today, but life has been teaching us some lessons. And I don't want to speak for Stephen, but in speaking for myself, where I believe we have consensus, is we spent nearly a decade on a particular way of doing real estate, wanting to change the world. And we have results, friends. Our results are nearing $1 billion. Some would say that's really impressive. But what is not very impressive is a company that does that amount of real estate, that puts nearly $100 million of gains in other people's pockets and still leaves the company struggling. We know what it's like to work hard at ideas that benefit others but don't necessarily create the ultimate win that the company needs itself. And I'll tell you that we just worked harder and then we tweaked, and then we worked harder and then we tweaked. And after years of that, Stephen and I said, I wonder if it's time for a different idea, and we got back to the basics. Today is a representation of us doing this exact same thing. And here's what it is. Vaughn was my 30-day experiment. And what we decided was, we know that we can only service 7% of the market because 7% of the market has accumulated money in 401ks and IRAs and home equity to be able to do real estate. 7%. And I want to change the world, and I'm tackling a niche. How big? 7%. And by the way, after years of working it, and making it baseline profitable, but creating massive wins for everyone else, but not allowing it to really perpetuate the way we wanted, it took all those years before we realized that maybe it's because we're not helping enough people. What we're doing today and what we're opening up and what I think we're going to end with right now is Stephen and I, we're going to share with you what real wealth is. It is a way to help 5 times as many people than we have been able to help in the past. In fact, here's our requirements that we're looking for if we're going to help someone. Number 1, can you fog a mirror with passion? Can you get excited about what we do in real estate? Can you excited about your why? Can you get excited about what you want to create? That's a requirement. Number 2, we know that doing real estate for you, if you don't have money, is not the way that you need to play. And even if you do have money, most of you only have enough to do a deal here and a deal there. And in 10 years, it will not multiply to enough, which means if we want to give you an ultimate solution instead of a partial solution, then what we would need to do is to actually educate you on what is missing. And we've only started that process today, friends. Partner Profits is a beginning of a powerful education. For some of you, it's all the education you need. But for many of you, this is a beginning. You're going to need the lease option training. In fact, you're going to need to be in a supportive community that will train, educate, do weekly calls, help you, meet with you, troubleshoot, review properties, recommend properties, do this entire thing. And so we know that the solution cannot just be do it for you, because we can only help 7% of the market. And so what we've decided to do is open up our doors and saying, we're now combining all of our done-for-you ability. We're now taking all of our education. We're putting it all together under one roof. And what that roof is, it's about helping you do real estate despite your circumstance. So if you're Vaughn or anybody else, you're in a situation where you say, well, Chris, I've got the drive and I'm willing to learn. You got the drive, you're willing to learn, then we can help you. There is an entrance fee to be a part of that community, to be working with us, whether it's for a year or working with us for life, so that we can be committed. I'll tell you, real estate is a lifelong pursuit. It's always in my background. It's always happening. Right now, I spend such a small amount of time on real estate, but last year, real estate made me hundreds of thousands of dollars. And that was me usually working less than an hour a month, okay? So real estate is a lifelong pursuit. We believe everyone should have some of it in their back pocket. And we're not scared anymore if you don't have money, Alex. If you don't have money and you don't have credit, we're like, game on, let's play. If you are motivated, teachable, willing to educate and learn and apply, execution is everything. Execution is what?
Everything.
And then this last part is, you gotta find one of our program doors to come through so that you can play, and we'll have that conversation for any one of you that wants to have that. And if you have those three things, we no longer have any barriers for you, because your money and your credit is no longer a barrier to succeeding in real estate. So today we've been teaching you about partnering. We've got things to teach you on lease option if you want to master creative. But really where we go from here is, let's help you do many partnerships. Let's help you create value for other people. Let's teach you how to find those people and get several going. Because here's the real truth that I haven't told my clients over all the years. This is confession time. I have been encouraging 7% of the population to use a real estate system to create wealth. And for the majority of them, what it will do is give them a massive upgrade from the financial path that we're on, but it will not give any of them, unless they have 20 or 30 years, it will not give any of them the total solution they really seek. The real solution is to do what I did. You have to get the education and you have to find partners. You have to learn enough formats of real estate so that you can make deals work when standard methodologies don't. I've got some friends even here in this room that have amassed a pile of homes. And if they will take those pile of homes and continue growing them for the next 5 years, they will have a bigger pile of homes. But I don't believe it will be enough for what they envision a real retirement truly looking like for them, unless they augment it, which means for me, it's not enough to have a done-for-you system. That is a part of the solution. You need to have the knowledge, the training, and the systems, and also work with people that are not going to train you on the wasted knowledge that will not get you where you want to go, because there's plenty of that in the world of real estate, and have you focus and harness your energy into utilizing everything required for a total solution. I'm a little bit of an extremist, which means I'm always interested in the total solution instead of a partial solution. And it's taken all this time for me to realize that the way I've been serving the community has been good, but I have not been serving them at the now new awareness and capacity that I'm aware of. So now my commitment and Stephen's commitment, when we work with people and friends, we have a massive community growing right now, a massive community joining us on YouTube, and they're out there and they want to know. We live in a world today that says, Chris, I don't want to spend 300 hours educating, but I know I'm going to have to put in 10 hours here and 20 hours there. I know I'm going to have to put in some time and some effort. We live in a world where we want it as easy as possible, which means we've got to remove any of the unnecessary training. We've got to make sure we are not putting your time in ideas, Alex and Ryan, that will only give you a part of what you want. We need to start playing at home run ideas, and then you need teachers and trainers and mentors that will shoot straight with you and hold you accountable when you're not showing up, when you're not doing your part, or when you are allowing yourself to be distracted by focusing on the wrong thing. With what we know in real estate, if someone has real motivation, courage, and is willing to get the training and will use the systems that we're now running with, all of them that we now have, which we've never had all assembled before, there's no reason why any individual ever needs to live that American lifestyle of build debt, struggle with it, try to get somewhere, amass a little bit, and ultimately retire poor with a small little nest egg. With real estate, it can be a much bigger nest egg. But if you want the entire solution, there's a reason why I did it in 4.5 years. And I still have people that marvel and say, how did you do that? And it's because I said, and it's because I had everything that I needed, not some of what I needed. I launched my career with a total solution. And I'm ready now to give everyone else a total solution in what we build together. But just know you got to be motivated and have drive, and you got to get the knowledge and education. If you got that with the systems we're doing here, and this is what it's going to come down to. We need to teach you creative real estate. You need to know partnering and master it. You need to know lease options and master it. That will take care of your creative education. Then in addition to that, having a team that you can train on that can implement the done-for-you side of our business. Through Real Wealth, we actually have discounts and proprietary inroads that no one else has as far as you bringing your partners to the table. And if you combine all that together with the ongoing training and knowledge that we put out there, then you won't just get a part of what you need to become financially free through real estate. You'll get everything that you need. And I'm going to end with what I started with. You need a why that shakes you to the core, a why that scares you. Not fear, but trembling at what it would be if you actually saw your dream come true. And if you bring me that motivation and you bring me that why, with our knowledge and what we know, I can't guarantee your success, but I can guarantee you a complete system. And we invite you to stay with it long term and play with it the right way, the way that it's designed to. If you do that, then we have a community coming together today that can be in a very different situation, not 10 years from now, not 5 years from now, 12 months from now, sitting on a pile of properties with partners creating value in the world.
That's awesome.
So one of the things that's going to happen is I'm going to have, is Amber back there? Okay, so I'm going to have
Sign-up
Marianne, Amber, Delwyn. What they're going to do is they've got some sign-up sheets for anyone that wants to have a conversation with Stephen Miller and our team to get some more knowledge and training on what does that look like. And I also want to do I want to give a challenge. 2 pieces of information right now. Here's the first one, which is the challenge. My challenge is for you to decide right now what you're going to do with this knowledge.
An email, probably.
If all you do is allow it to collect dust and chalk it up, I mean, be honest with yourself. How often have you sat in a good seat, in a good place, learning good knowledge, walking away brighter, smarter, more intelligent, but not necessarily executing what you were learning? Raise your hand if you've ever felt that way. Friends, right now take this moment. And right now the reality is if your life grows to another level, if you see a dream come true, if you make an attempt and you're out there trying to figure it out, finding partners, it's only going to happen because you got to a point where you made a choice. And I don't know what your choice is, but I'm inviting you to get clear for your sake. What are you going to do with this knowledge? Because by the way, has the training been good today? Yes. How many of you feel like you have a next step? So I want to invite you to go ahead and turn to the person next to you and share with them what is your next step. Be specific, 2 minutes, make time for each other. Turn to the person right now next to you and just share what your next step is and what you are committing to do with this information.
Should I send that around?
Okay, Carson. All right. 10 more seconds. And stop. Go ahead and high five your partner and say, "You are limitless." Carson, can you bring my microphone down? Thank you. Okay, so my friends, we're doing a couple of things right now. For those of you that are online watching, I want you to know that we're passing a clipboard around for people that want to understand more and learn about what our real wealth system is that we're launching. And so you would fill that out. However, and by the way, and if you're on live stream in the chat box, you just need to put your name, phone number, email, and click send. And within the next 24 hours, we're going to have someone on our team in touch to go over that with you. But what we want to share with you that many of you know and some of you may not is that tonight we have a special meeting. It is not part of Partner Profits, but it is open to the public. In this room at 7 p.m., we are going to be releasing real wealth. And I want to just share with you what that means. What we're releasing tonight is a combination and hybrid of our old done-for-you system that services 7% of the community, and real wealth is going to be servicing the other 30% of the community, and putting both of them together so that we have a real solution for people that are really serious. There are several different ways that people can participate within real wealth, and let me just share with you some of the reasons why people are deciding to come tonight. Several years ago, Stephen and I actually set up with another good friend of ours, Kevin Clayson and Steve Earle and a few others, an organization called Strongbrook Direct. Does anyone, some of you were even part of that. How many of you remember that? So that's an organization that we ran for a 6-year period of time. It was MLM based, and it was all about helping find investors for our done-for-you system for when people had money. It was a system that people made a lot of money at. One of our top leaders, Gary and Carolyn Norris, made nearly $1 million in that system, and they loved it. They were also disappointed after 6 years, to say the least, when it went away, because it wasn't working for the company, but it was working for a lot of our distributors. And so over a year ago, that program went away, and tonight what we're doing is we are giving birth to a better, brighter innovation. It is not an MLM, and it is more in the direct sales arena. But what this program is whereas in the old program, when someone made $3,000, this program is equivalent to $40,000. So it is a very different and very powerful economic engine. And what we're bringing to the marketplace is not just a done-for-you system. Done-for-you, honestly, is a total solution for someone that has $1 million and wants to turn it into millions. It is a partial solution for the average American that maybe has 100,000 or 50,000 or 200,000, that 7% that have that money set aside. And they can grow that, but whether that will become a total solution depends on how much time they have. And for most, it won't be 5 or 10 years. It could be 20 or 30 years. And so what we're doing is we're bringing that component back. It's powerful, it's amazing, it's free to the public, it's incredible. But those that are a part of the Real Wealth community get to take advantage of the system in brand new ways that no one else can, even those that work with Done For You. What we're doing with our Real Wealth is we are augmenting it with our entire training program, which means all of our digitized training, over $100,000 of trainings on the go with our website that Carson has through Mentor Me. It is our live trainings that we do on a quarterly basis for people. It is our training systems that include things like our lease option training and also our partnering training. It is our exclusive access to people that are utilizing our Done For You for their partners when they don't have the money, which we have exclusive rights to. It's discounted fees on our Done For You. There's so many different components, but one of the other components is when you're out there finding partners, this is our number one priority. Go out and use a system to find partners. And then when you do, every person that wants to partner with you, you will probably find 4 or 5 people that don't want to. And by the way, it might be because they don't want to partner with you, but it also might be because you
don't want to partner with them.
Don't want to partner with them. Those, by the way, that exists. You don't want to partner with people with money. You want to partner with people with money that you have a good connection with, that you build a good, reasonable relationship. But all the people that you're not going to partner with, you can turn them over to our system, and we're going to show you how to earn up to $10,000 thank you checks. And by the way, if you get 3 of those, guess what you can do with $30,000? You can buy a house. Now, by the way, you could even partner with someone and buy 2 houses and be in 50-50 on it. So what we're doing is we've created new ways for people to grow and earn. It is real estate centric. That's what tonight's meeting is. It's going to be happening tonight here. The meeting starts at 7 o'clock. We're encouraging people to be here at 6:30, registered. Everyone that is here on live stream is welcome to be here. We are going to be, some of you that are watching this have the live stream link for tonight. We're also going to be streaming this live to my entire YouTube audience of 60,000 subscribers. And so tonight is a very significant launch that Stephen and I put a lot of time in. Gary and Carolyn Norris are going to be here. Many of our old leaders are coming back, Mike Driggers and Lola from California, from New York, and a lot of people are coming, Hans from so we're having a really, really beautiful revitalization. And our belief is that if we can help people go from making 3,000 to 40,000 conversion, that it will change the game of how much real estate they can buy. We're changing the game with who they can partner with. We're changing the game by a real community filled with investors, not people with money. People that know how to amass with resourcefulness the ability to make real estate happen and create value. So that's happening at 7 o'clock tonight. You're all welcome to be here for it. Otherwise, we're sending around the clipboard. You're going to get a private meeting with our staff so that you can learn about the options. But tonight we're going through all of them. So we're going to really open it up. So tonight would be a great way to get more knowledge and information on that.
Yeah, I just want to, as we close out here, first of all, I want to thank you for being here and participating. This is something, like Chris said, that we've been talking about for years and years and years. We've been helping people partner unofficially and really wanted to get this information out to as many people as we possibly can, because we recognize this for what it really is, which is true power to be able to get out there and accomplish your dreams and your goals. I encourage you to use it. I encourage you today to go home after this is done and start to put into place daily action steps. Things that you're going to be doing on a daily basis to start getting closer and closer and closer to your dreams. And there may be people in this room also that you're here talking to and networking with who are going to be part of your team, and maybe you're going to be part of their team in helping those dreams to come to fruition. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being attentive, for playing along. Thank you, everybody out there as well. That's whether you're here with us right now or watching this after the fact, really appreciate you. Please do give yourselves a big round of applause. Thank you so much.
Now, friends, take this knowledge and take this information. This is the most powerful, dangerous, and dream-driven knowledge that I possess that can allow you to give birth and take gestation of me saving money for a dream and taking decades and turning that into months. Take this information, use it responsibly, and remember, you have a purpose. And if you have a why big enough to drive that purpose, there's nowhere this information can't take you. Congratulations. Give yourselves a big round of applause.
And if you're staying here, then they've asked if we could have people move their cars to the overflow place because they're still, even though we're having events here, they still have their business downstairs. And so if you're staying here and you're not going anywhere, if you could just move it like to the overflow parking lot.
Awesome. And who's planning on coming tonight, by the way? Is anyone here for the launch?
Good.
Awesome. And those online, looking forward to having you guys here. It is going to be, it's the start. I don't know how often you get to be a part of the start of something exciting and new, but that is absolutely what's happening tonight, and we're thrilled about it.
Thanks, friends.
When I feel broken from staring into the sun, which tries to blind our eyes. Oh, we're dancing forever under the beautiful skies.
Somewhere over the ocean, a spark just to ignite. I'm stuck in my hometown, waiting for your reply.